Chapter 631. The morning sun was especially warm, shining on Jing Yunzhao's face, making her look even more gentle and beautiful. However, this trace of beauty, in He Jili's eyes, added a sense of alienation and coldness. He always felt that behind that smile, there was a hidden danger that made people tremble with fear. Miss Jing, you must be joking. Yesterday was Cece's fault. When she wakes up, I'll definitely educate her properly. I definitely won't let her disturb Miss Jing again, He Jili hurriedly said. The girl in front of him wasn't an ordinary person. He absolutely couldn't treat her rudely like before. Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips and smiled. Although this He Jili was dissolute and lecherous, he was also very timid and lazy. At the same time, he didn't have any adventurous spirit. Therefore, ever since the He family fell into his hands, it had always been the same as it was at the beginning. He refused to innovate. What he wanted was to maintain a comfortable and prosperous life, not a higher career achievement. Mr. He, did you only come for this matter? Jing Yunzhao asked, even though she already knew the answer. Miss Jing. He Jili's expression was hesitant, but after thinking about it, he still said, I heard that Miss He is a godly doctor, so I was wondering if I could ask Miss He to treat my wife's illness. Of course, I'll pay the consultation fee. Mr. He, that's why I said you're magnanimous. You clearly know that I don't get along with your wife and child, yet you still ask me to treat them. However, I'm afraid that Han Qin and He Jiasi won't accept your kindness, right? Jing Yunzhao said. What do you mean? He Jili really didn't understand. He always felt that Jing Yunzhao's words had a hidden meaning. I heard that Mr. He has a lot of children. Is that right? Jing Yunzhao continued. He Jili's expression was somewhat awkward. Indeed, I have a total of 9 children. However, 2 of them died in an accident. 9 children? Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but be surprised. One must know that He Jili only had 1 wife. Moreover, He Jiasi was an only child. In other words, the other 8 were illegitimate children. Fortunately, He Jili's family was wealthy. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to raise a child. However, such a child would certainly be very interesting when they fought over the family property in the future. With this thought in mind, Jing Yunzhao didn't have any hostility towards He Jili. After all, this man had never offended her from the beginning to the end. He had only married a woman with a poisonous heart and had given birth to a weirdo like He Jiasi. So many children. Mr. He is quite amazing. Jing Yunzhao sighed and said, but the 2 who died, I'm afraid it wasn't an accident, right? He Jili was stunned. Miss Jing? Mr. He, why don't you go and find out the real cause of death of your 2 dead children? You can come and look for me after you find out the truth. If you still insist that I treat Han Qin by then, that's fine too. Prepare enough money and I can spare her. Jing Yunzhao finished and turned to leave. But before he left, he said, but the next time you come, don't bring gifts. I don't want to be gossiped about. There were so many classmates around who saw He Jili driving a luxury car and giving gifts. They would definitely be curious, right? Curiosity was the source of gossip. If there were any bad rumors, she would really want to cry but have no tears. Jing Yunzhao left confidently. He Jili stared at her back with a confused expression. His 2 dead daughters had other causes of death? Listening to her words, it was related to his wife? He Jili's expression suddenly became dignified. He quickly got in the car and ordered someone to investigate. Chapter 632. What Li Xiaoyun could find out, He Jili naturally could too. Even if he couldn't, as long as Li Xiaoyun helped him reveal some clues, He Jili would naturally be able to find the root of the problem. The reason why Han Qin and He Jiasi dared to kill the 2 illegitimate daughters was definitely not as simple as they couldn't stand it. It was more likely that they were a threat to their positions. When the 2 daughters died one after another, He Jili didn't think too much about it. But now that he had the heart to investigate, sure enough, within a few days, the matter was clearly laid out in front of him. The one who died of drug addiction was his 3rd daughter. That child was the most well-behaved and the most beautiful when she was young. His 3rd daughter's mother was a very gentle, sensible, and weak woman, so he was quite fond of both mother and daughter. But when he found out that his daughter died of drug addiction, He was greatly disappointed because he really couldn't believe that the perfect daughter in his heart was actually addicted to drugs. Apart from being sad, he also felt that he was deceived, so he didn't even pay attention to his daughter's mother. But now that he investigated, he found out that his third daughter didn't lie to him. The reason she got addicted to drugs was actually Hijiasi's doing. Hijiasi deliberately invited the children home to celebrate her birthday. At that time, she tricked his third daughter into taking a lot of drugs. His third daughter was simple and naive, so she didn't realize it. It was also because she took too much that she completely left this world. Hijili was suddenly shocked because in his heart, although this daughter of his, Hijiasi, was a bit willful and arrogant, she wouldn't go so far as to kill her own sister. His daughter killed her, but it was under Han Qin's instructions. Even the drugs were obtained by Han Qin through her own channels. As for the reason, Hijili thought about it and recalled that during the period before his third daughter died, he slept at his third daughter's mother's place almost every night. Every time he went home, he was very dissatisfied with Han Qin, thinking that she wasn't gentle and sensible enough. At that time, he even thought that it would be great if he could marry a woman like his third daughter's mother. He even bought a necklace that his wife had long taken a fancy to and gave it to that woman. Hijili's heart trembled as he continued to look at another stack of information. Fourth daughter. Her mother was a woman with an extremely strong personality. She had been tricked into bed by him. After giving birth, she had committed suicide. He felt very guilty, so he treated his fourth daughter very well. No matter what she wanted, he would satisfy her as a father. At that time, his daughter fell in love with Tang Zihua, and he was unhappy about it. He thought that Jia Si might not be able to marry into the Tang family in the future. Instead of letting Jia Si's mistake benefit someone else, he might as well let his fourth daughter cultivate a relationship with Tang Zihua. Therefore, he asked Jia Si to bring his fourth daughter along when she met Tang Zihua. Then, he was kidnapped. At that time, Jia Si had also been kidnapped. The kidnappers had demanded 300 million. At that time, he had called the police, but the strange thing was that they could not find the kidnappers at all. The kidnappers knew for no reason that they had called the police, so they did not contact them again and directly killed Jia Si. However, Jia Si survived. She said that her fourth daughter had helped her escape, so she was lucky enough to return home. Because her daughter had suffered a great shock at that time, even if there were some loopholes in her words, no one thought too much about it. After all, who would have thought that the mother and daughter had come up with the kidnapping themselves? Hijili was completely dumbfounded. Both of his daughters had died. He had thought that it was an accident, but he did not expect the truth to be so shocking. Hijili stared blankly at the information for a long time in silence. A few hours later, he walked with heavy footsteps toward his wife's house. Chapter 633. His wife, Han Qin, was lying on the bed with a pale face. It was obvious that the painkillers had taken effect, and she could finally relax for a while. When the nanny who was taking care of her saw Hijili, she immediately left the room and closed the door. "Hubby, how's Cece?" Han Qin asked tiredly. "Pretty good." Hijili's face was gloomy. "That's good." Han Qin breathed a sigh of relief, but in the next second, her face flashed with a trace of malevolence. "Jing Yunzhao, that bitch, actually dared to be so heavy-handed on my daughter and almost killed Cece. I definitely won't let her off." "Hubby, you still haven't found a doctor who can treat me?" "Seriously, you said they were all famous doctors, but I think they're all idiots." Hearing Han Qin's voice, Hijili felt goosebumps all over his body. This was the person who slept with him, but he didn't expect her to be so vicious. The reason why he liked to find women was because in his eyes, women were all made of water. They were soft and boneless, shy and charming, and extremely clean, unlike men who were vulgar and dirty. Although he knew that his wife had a bad temper and was jealous, he always thought that it was just a woman's temper, but he didn't expect that jealousy would be enough to make her kill. If it was someone else, it would be fine, but she killed Hijili's most precious child. "Why are you staring at me?" Han Qin asked again. "Staring at you? I even want to strangle you right now." Hijili gritted his teeth. When he said this, Han Qin was shocked. "Are you crazy? I'm already like this, and you're still not satisfied? It's fine if you can't find a good doctor, But why are you getting angry at me? I'm the one who's suffering now. I think you deserve it. If you didn't use her parents as an excuse, would Jing Yunjiao have dealt with you? He Geely was so angry that he wanted to hit her. When he said this, Han Qin was about to go crazy. However, her hands and feet were fixed to the bed, so she could only speak. I did this for our Cici. If it wasn't for Jing Yunjiao and that bitch called Xiao Hongya, would our Cici be despised by the Tang family? What's wrong with me taking revenge on her? What did I do wrong? Besides, didn't I just find a pair of fake parents? For an orphan like her, it's already a blessing to have parents. How unreasonable. Han Qin, just you wait and see. Your retribution is coming. He Geely pointed at Han Qin and angrily turned around to leave. Treat her illness? Unless he was an idiot. It was true that he had let her down by having affairs with other women, but from the first day they met, Han Qin knew what kind of person he was. He even said himself that it was his interest, and he would never change it. She still insisted on marrying him even after knowing his habits. What right did she have to complain about the heavens and accuse others? What right did she have to do something to his daughters? Cici's life was a life, and his other children were worthless weeds. In Han Qin's eyes, He Geely's reaction was somewhat unreasonable. She was crying and scolding at the top of her voice, without any of the elegance of a noble lady. In a fit of anger, He Geely directly threw all the painkillers in the house into the trash can. But when he thought of his daughter, He Jiasi, he felt as if he had swallowed a fly, feeling disgusted and uncomfortable. Her personality was just like her mother's. In the ward, He Jiasi had already regained consciousness, but every time she thought of the moment when she was shot, she would tremble incessantly. Dad, help me. Can you go find Jing Yunjiao? I really feel terrible. My body hurts. When she saw He Geely, He Jiasi immediately cried and purposely pulled on her wound to make her father's heart soften. Chapter 634. A trace of blood seeped out of the wound. The nurse on the side hurriedly stepped forward to comfort her, fearing that her injury would worsen. If it was in the past, seeing such a lonely and helpless daughter, his impatience would definitely disappear without a trace. Then, whether it was spending money or finding someone, he would coax her. But now, all he saw was hypocrisy. A child who was extremely hypocritical in front of her own father. How terrifying was she? She was still so young, yet she was so good at acting and deceiving people. She was even younger when she caused the deaths of her two younger sisters. How could such a young person have a sinister and vicious nature that even adults can't compare to? Things like genes were indeed extremely terrifying. She really inherited all of Han Qin's ruthlessness. Dad, seeing her father's expressionless look as he scrutinized her, He Jiasi suddenly panicked. Starting today, you'll move to a normal ward. He Geely opened his mouth and continued. I've already sold all of your clothes, shoes, and bags. Once you're discharged from the hospital, someone will take you to a new residence. From now on, you're not allowed to take a single step into the He family's house. Otherwise, I'll break your legs. As for the school, I've already applied for you to drop out. The secretary will tell you the details later. He Geely wasn't willing to say another word to his daughter, so he directly left. He Jiasi was immediately dumbfounded and hurriedly shouted, Dad, what are you saying? Are you muddle-headed? Miss He, I'll have to trouble you to be quiet. The secretary immediately opened his mouth to stop her and said, Mr. He's meaning is very simple. That is, from today onwards, you're considered to be kicked out of the house. Mr. He has also made it clear to the public that you won't be able to inherit a single cent of his property. Once you're discharged from the hospital, everything you can take with you is in this box. Later, I'll help you count them one by one. What nonsense are you talking about? He Jiasi's eyes widened. This time, she really didn't care about the injuries on her body. She opened her mouth and cursed. Is my dad crazy? Why would he kick me out of the house? I don't believe it. Go and call him back right now. I'm sorry, Miss He. Mr. He said that he'll never see you again. Even if you starve to death outside, he won't care. As for the grudges between you and Miss Jing, forgive me for being blunt, but from today onwards, Miss Jing can deal with others and fight with them. That's all because you're from the He family. But from today onwards, you're no longer. But there was a bit more ridicule in her tone. As the real Miss Hijasi was usually unavoidably arrogant and despotic. This secretary could only endure it in the past, but now she could finally vent her resentment. Hijasi, however, didn't believe her. She began to point at the secretary, quarreling and scolding her. Not long after, her wound opened up and she made another ruckus. Hijili was an extremely fickle person, but he was also a bit of a male chauvinist. He always treated his women with incomparable leniency and was very opinionated when it came to women. That's why Han Qin could sit firmly in the position of Mrs. He for so many years. Han Qin didn't have much status or background. When she was young, she completely relied on her outstanding face to win the position of Mrs. He. It was just that she could hold on to this position in the past, but now, she naturally couldn't. Hijili was extremely fast. He directly went through the divorce procedures with her. Of course, Han Qin wasn't happy, but Hijili had evidence of the mother and daughter's murder, so Han Qin could only admit defeat. On the day of the parent-teacher conference, Hijili once again appeared in front of Jing Yunzhao. But this time, he came to tell Jing Yunzhao about Han Qin and her mother's situation. It could be said that he stayed out of the matter. Chapter 635. Everything was within Jing Yunzhao's expectations. It would be strange if Hijili could forgive Han Qin and Hijasi for killing his two daughters. Mr. He, I believe you have the phone numbers of your ex-father-in-law, mother-in-law, and brother-in-law, right? Jing Yunzhao asked Hijili. Hijili nodded. Even though he didn't know what Jing Yunzhao wanted to do, he still cooperated and wrote down his phone number and address. The houses that the Han family used to live in were all under my name. Now, I've already taken back all the houses and moved them all to a small broken courtyard in the city. Hijili was full of anger when he thought of the Han family. He really spent money to raise a bunch of vermin. In the past, for the sake of his wife, he was very good to the Han family. Not only did he give them cars and houses, he even arranged for the Han family's children's school. Now that he and Han Qin were divorced, he naturally wanted to take back everything that he had given her. That's good. Jing Yunzhao smiled and took the address and phone number. Han Qin and Hijasi used her parents' name to humiliate her. Now, she wanted to let them feel what it was like to be schemed against by their own family. How could people not feel resentment when they suddenly fell from a high pedestal after staying for a long time? Even if Han Qin's parents blamed her, what about her brother and sister-in-law? They would live under the same roof in the future. Their good days would be long. Jing Yunzhao's smile made Hijili's heart tremble. After he called her, he quickly left. He really didn't want to stay with this little girl at all. Jing Yunzhao looked at the back of the car as it left, and the corner of her mouth hooked up into a smile. The He family was just like this. She didn't do anything to Hijili not because she forgave his connivance and acquiescence, but because she knew she didn't need to do anything. Hijili's body had obviously lit up a red light. At most, in 10 years, he would definitely be sick. Those who indulged too much would age faster than ordinary people. At that time, his women and children wouldn't be idle. They would line up one by one to scheme against him. How reliable could a relationship built with money be? Jing Yunzhao turned around and walked into the campus with a smile. Early in the morning, the campus was extremely lively. The students had arrived an hour earlier, and the parents had also walked in with solemn expressions. Some people looked serious while some looked proud. Those who knew each other exchanged pleasantries while those who didn't know each other nodded and smiled. In the class, the students sat upright and still, each of them extremely nervous. However, the teachers revealed amiable smiles as they watched the parents of the students walk into the classroom one by one. She's not here yet. Look, I'm going to win. Behind her, a classmate stared at the empty seat next to Xiao Haiqing and whispered. However, just as he finished speaking, a young woman walked in. Teacher Qi was stunned. You are? She's so young. She can't be the student's mother, right? Could it be his elder sister? Hello, teacher. I'm Xiao Haiqing's auntie. Zhang Rong looked uneasy. Teacher Qi looked surprised. Then please take a seat. Zhang Rong's body emitted a strong smell of cosmetics. Her face was covered in a thick layer of powder, but some bruises could still be seen. She was probably beaten up at home by Xiao Daoan again. However, when Jiang Rong appeared, the class quieted down. Everyone stared at this legendary stepmother. Hi Qing. I'm late. I'm sorry. Jiang Rong trembled with fear. Xiao Haiqing glanced at her. Annie Jiang, why are you so polite to me? In the past, you were either busy or your son wasn't feeling well. It's rare for you to squeeze out some time. I can't thank you enough. Chapter 636. Xiao Haiqing smiled gently, but Jiang Rong was shocked, her body trembling slightly. The reason why she was late today was because Ning City and Huaning County were separated by a few hours of driving. She had already set off before dawn. However, because she had woken up too early, she had provoked Xiao Daoan's temper and was beaten up by him. So, sorry. Jiang Rong quickly said. Xiao Haiqing's face turned cold. Annie Jiang, are you trying to make up for the past few years of apologies all at once? Jiang Rong immediately fell silent. In the past, she had never been afraid of Xiao Haiqing, but now, she was scared to the bone. She was always very sensible and obedient in front of Xiao Daoan. She didn't make a fuss, but one sentence from him could make her life difficult. Recently, she had been beaten up by Xiao Daoan too many times, and she had thoughts of divorce. However, Xiao Haiqing had used some unknown method to get her private parts from James. If word got out, she could only die. Jiang Rong sat restlessly by Xiao Haiqing's side, which made others feel a little strange. Even Su Chu had a face of confusion, not knowing what was going on. Cousin, this bad woman won't say bad things about Haiqing in front of the students, right? I really don't understand why Xiao Haiqing asked Jiang Rong to come. What if she causes trouble? Su Chu was a little worried. You're a well-fed person who doesn't know the suffering of the hungry. Jing Yunzhao smiled and said. She was probably the only one here who could understand Xiao Haiqing. In this kind of situation, everyone had their parents by their side. Even if their parents weren't there, there would be an elder by their side. However, she and Xiao Haiqing had always been the same person. It was fine if they had to accept the strange looks of their classmates, but they also had to receive the attention of their parents. During the week before and after the parent-teacher conference, they had to endure this kind of gaze. Sympathy was the most hurtful. It would remind you again and again that you were pitiful, helpless, and lowly. The reason why she didn't care now was because she had grown up from this age. However, at this time in her previous life, she also felt embarrassed. Having someone come was better than having no one by his side. Moreover, what Jiang Rong was doing now was something she hated the most in the past, but she could only do it again and again to fulfill her responsibilities. That feeling was the most torturous for her. Before long, the house was filled with people. Su Chu and Gan Jinchen frowned as they stared outside. That's strange. Why isn't Grandpa here yet? Didn't we agree on this? He mumbled again. Your grandfather? He won't be coming today. Su Chu's mother rubbed her daughter's head and said. A teacher called him and said that someone would attend the parent-teacher conference. As soon as he said this, the few of them were stunned. It can't be the teacher with the surname Li, right? Su Chu asked in astonishment. Just as she was about to ask, a valiant figure appeared at the door. Li Xiaoyun walked in. When he passed by Teacher Qi, he smiled. I'm here to look for Ara Zhao. Teacher Qi, can you praise her more later? Teacher Qi's old face twitched violently. Jing Yunzhao always ranks first in the grade. She's a good child, Teacher Qi said reluctantly. Of course, he had to praise her, but there was no need for this brat with the surname Li to say it, right? Ever since this guy came to school as a teacher, it was really a foul atmosphere. Every day, there would be young girls asking him about Teacher Li. How would he know? That's right. Ara Zhao is not only good-looking, but also has a high IQ. Teacher Qi, you're really lucky to have met such an outstanding student. As he spoke, he walked toward Jing Yunzhao under everyone's speechless gazes. Chapter 637. Teacher Qi's old face stiffened a little, as if it was his first time meeting Li Xiaoyun. Usually, he had never seen him boast so much. Usually, when he spoke, he had a look of contempt for everything. His aura had always been incomparable, but now, he actually looked a little gentler. Li Xiaoyun's appearance was outstanding. Everyone looked at him a few more times without sleep. They only saw him walk to Jing Yunzhao's side and sit down with a calm expression. He really looked like Jing Yunzhao's elder. However, when Li Xiaoyun saw Su Chu and Gan Jinchen, their expressions turned bitter. They had given away a month's worth of pocket money. In the future, the two of them could only freeload. It was too pitiful. Little brother, are you Jing Yunzhao's big brother or? Someone behind looked at Li Xiaoyun's back and asked. Jing Yunzhao's grades were so good. As parents, they naturally wanted to know her learning methods. However, they had never seen her parents come before. Sometimes, Jing Yunzhao was like a taciturn gourd. They couldn't get anything out of her. Now, it was different. It was rare that there was someone who could speak on behalf of Jing Yunzhao. Li Xiaoyun leaned to the side and took the cigarette from the other party. He said, "For now, I'm her big brother." For now? The other party was taken aback and smiled. Classmate Jing Yunzhao is really lucky to have such a handsome brother like you. But can I ask, what kind of books does your sister usually read? What's her daily schedule? The uncle behind him asked again. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows and glanced at Jing Yunzhao. Then, he looked at the boy beside the uncle who spoke and said, "Ara Zhao reads all kinds of books. She has a photographic memory and is born smart." What he meant was that they wouldn't be able to learn it even if they asked. Li Xiaoyun's mouth curled up. After saying that, the uncle's face stiffened and he laughed dryly. The boy beside him tugged at the corner of his father's clothes and whispered, "Dad, don't ask. This is our class PE teacher." The teacher that all the boys in the class were most afraid of was this Li Xiaoyun in front of them. Every time it was physical education class, he would torture them. Moreover, he was famous for being a smiling tiger. He looked like a gentleman, but in fact, he was a pervert. "Oh, so you're a physical education teacher. What's your name?" The father's eyes lit up as he quickly asked. "Li, Mr. Li, nice to meet you." The father said politely and glared at his son before saying, "I heard that all the other classes have canceled their PE classes except for the first class. Isn't that not very good?" "Actually, I don't mean anything else. It's mainly because we're in our third year of high school. We should focus on our studies. Physical education shouldn't be that important." As soon as he said that, his son beside him rolled his eyes. He carefully glanced at Li Xiaoyun and quickly lowered his head. When the uncles and aunties nearby heard this, they all gathered around. "I think it's time to cancel it. Aren't all the students in this class elites? Since they're elites, we shouldn't waste time on this kind of thing. Don't you think so? Mr. Li, don't you think it's better to give this PE class to others in the future?" Previously, when my son came back, he complained that the PE class was too tiring. The surrounding voices almost buried Li Xiaoyun. Jing Yunzhao lowered his head and couldn't help but chuckle. He seemed to be taking pleasure in Li Xiaoyun's misfortune, who asked him to walk over in such a high-profile manner. Chapter 638. The parents' voices grew louder and louder. Soon, almost everyone in the class was discussing the physical education class. Even Teacher Chi was blocked by everyone's words. He looked embarrassed and helpless. Every year at this time, the parents would be like wolves and tigers. They couldn't wait for their children to work hard 24 hours a day. "Teacher Chi, say something. When will our physical education class be canceled? We can't joke about our children's future, right?" A parent immediately said. The corner of Teacher Chi's mouth twitched. There were only 2 physical education classes a week. How could it be related to their future? "This is the school's decision," Teacher Chi said hesitantly. "Then why are the other classes different from Class 1? Someone asked again. At this moment, Li Xiaoyun snorted. "Students who don't want to attend physical education class can come and have a chat with me. Do you?" With a simple sentence, the room instantly fell silent. "Mom, stop talking." If they continued, wouldn't they be even more miserable in class in the future? Although physical education class was tiring, it was also very interesting. Teacher Li had also taught them many self-defense skills, which were very practical. "What do you mean stop talking about? This matter concerns their studies. There's no room for discussion. Do you think I don't know what physical education class is for? If you have the time to play, you might as well read more books." A loud voice immediately said. This shout immediately caused the atmosphere in the room to turn serious. All of them lost their previous politeness and began to protect their children. Li Xiaoyan pulled Jing Yunjiao to her feet and walked to the front. He said, "It seems like everyone cares about their children's future. That's why you're willing to sacrifice their health?" "What do you mean by that?"
a parent asked.
"The children in class want to have better grades, right?"
Li Xiaoyun asked with a faint smile.
"That's right," the person below replied. There was a hint of pride in his tone. Li Xiaoyan raised his eyebrows and continued, "Our Zhao knows some medical skills. Why don't we let her speak?" With that said, he looked over with a smile. Jing Yunjiao's eyelids twitched. She was even more speechless when she saw the puzzled looks on everyone's faces. However, even though Li Xiaoyun had deliberately dragged her into the water, she still agreed with the theme that he wanted to express. "Students, most of your good grades come from reading books without eating or sleeping. However, it's not good for your body if your nerves are tense or your eyes can't relax. Young Master Li, Teacher Li will teach you some self-defense skills in class. It's good for your safety and also allows you to exercise your muscles and bones. It's good for your health," Jing Yunjiao said. Everyone was stunned. The auntie with the louder voice spoke again. "Jing Yunjiao, we all know this. It's just a year. After this year, the children can relax however they want." Jing Yunjiao frowned and disagreed. 1 year? It didn't seem like a long time, but at this rate, let alone a year, even a few months wouldn't be enough. A second ago, Jing Yunjiao was still somewhat polite. Now that she heard the auntie's words, she immediately became aggressive and walked over. She glanced at the auntie's son and reached out to grab his wrist to check his pulse. After a while, she snorted and said, "Auntie, your son's face is pale and there are dark circles under his eyes. It's obvious that he hasn't had a good rest recently. He probably goes to bed after midnight every night, right? Today is the parent-teacher conference. Look at his nervous face and cold sweat. He's obviously afraid that you'll be dissatisfied with him. It's fine if he's in this mood for a day or two, but in the long run, it'll be serious." Chapter 639. Without waiting for the auntie to speak, Jing Yunjiao continued, "His initial symptoms are anxiety. But if you continue to push him, he will suffer from insomnia, depression, and mental strength. If he's lucky, he might be able to make it through. But if he's unlucky, he might suffer from depression or even schizophrenia." "Auntie, have you ever heard of overwork? Long-term overwork can lead to sudden death due to heart failure, lung failure, kidney failure, myocardial infarction, and cerebral hemorrhage. It sounds scary." "Of course. In fact, I don't know much about the term death from overwork, but I just took a look at your son. His body is currently lacking in qi, blood, and yin, and his internal organs are somewhat dysfunctional. As the saying goes, accumulation of deficiency leads to injury, and accumulation of injury leads to overwork. You don't want your son to age prematurely, right?" When Jing Yunjiao finished her series of words, everyone was stunned. The auntie's face stiffened. What are you talking about? Why did he suddenly die and age prematurely?" "I'm sorry, I might have been too harsh, but auntie, I can't agree with what you said. Instead of paying attention to his results, you should pay attention to his body first. For TCM, overwork will hurt one's qi. Although this kind of injury can't be seen on the surface, there are some signs. For example, your son has serious eye circles, so he must be staying up late often. So even if I don't take a look, I can tell that his tongue is thick and greasy, which proves that he has dampness and heat in his body. Furthermore, his spleen is damaged, so his appetite should be poor." The auntie's face turned ugly. Her son would go to bed after midnight every night and wake up at 5 in the morning, even during the summer vacation. As for his appetite, her son didn't like to eat. No matter how good the food was, he would only take a few bites before losing interest. She even thought that her son was picky. According to Jing Yunjiao, her son was sick. She immediately shook her head at the thought. How could she believe the words of a young girl? She was her son's classmate, so she definitely knew her son well. "Jing Yunjiao, I admit that my son doesn't have a good appetite, but he has been picky about food since he was young. It's not as serious as you say," the aunt said again. She knew that Jing Yunjiao had a pitiful background. She had also heard from her son that she was very smart and a good person. Usually, when the other students in the class asked her for advice, she would answer all their questions. Jing Yunjiao sighed inwardly and said, "Since you don't believe my words, why don't you let me take your pulse?" The atmosphere in the room was strange. Everyone was a little confused. They didn't know how a good parent-teacher conference turned into a medical club. However, the auntie was angered by her words. She stretched out her hand and said, "Go ahead. I want to see what you have to say. Your body is full of deficiency fire. Do you usually feel thirsty and irritated?" Jing Yunjiao asked slowly. "This is correct." The auntie nodded. "It's not wrong to have a lot of dreams at night, right?" Jing Yunjiao asked again. The auntie thought for a moment and nodded again. "Heart palpitations, urine short red." Jing Yunjiao's lips curled up as she retracted her hand and added. The auntie blushed and was a little embarrassed. However, she heard Jing Yunjiao say, "You usually like to eat warm fruits, such as durian and mango. You also like to cook with spices like star anise, pepper, and cinnamon. Also, you like to eat greasy food, so eat more at dinner." After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, she quietly looked at her with a hint of a smile on her face. Chapter 640. Everyone stared at the auntie after she said that. Another woman beside her quickly tugged at her arm. That Jing Yunjiao couldn't have been right? If he wasn't right, why would she have such an expression? He was shocked and embarrassed, and his face was full of uneasiness. "Did my son tell you?" the auntie said. Jing Yunjiao laughed lightly. "Whether it was him or not, you can ask the other students in class, because everyone knows that I don't like to talk about private matters. Usually, when we chat, it's mostly about complicated topics. It's impossible for them to be so bored as to pry into your private life." "Mom, I really didn't say that. I haven't talked to Jing Yunjiao since school started," the male student said embarrassedly. "Then why did you?" The auntie was puzzled. After a while, she said awkwardly, "You really know medicine? So what you said about my son was all true?" "Of course it's true. I won't joke about other people's health. Your son's symptoms aren't serious. He'll be fine as long as he rests more and exercises more to relax his mind," Jing Yunjiao said. As for the auntie's health, it wasn't very serious either. Most people had some preferences, but if they ate too much of their preferences, it would definitely affect their body's balance. This auntie had taken in a little too much nutrients and had a bad temper. As long as she controlled all the things she liked to eat and ate less at night and more mixed grains and vegetables, her bad temper would slowly dissipate. The auntie heaved a sigh of relief. But when she looked at Jing Yunjiao again, her expression changed. After a few seconds, she said, "Actually, it's only 2 PE classes a week. It doesn't affect him that much. What could be more important than her son's health?" Previously, she didn't know that her son's poor appetite was related to his studies. Now that she saw her son's thin body, how could she not feel distressed? Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips, revealing a hint of a smile. She walked back while giving Li Xiaoyun a fierce glare. The others were also a little restless. They couldn't help but wonder if their children were in the same situation. But when they thought about it, there were actually many children with the same symptoms. This was not surprising. There were more than 1,000 people in the school, and the top 50 students were all in this class. The intelligence of the students here was indeed higher, but more of them had stronger self-control. They would study hard every day. There were gains and losses. If they wanted to know more than others, they naturally had to spend more time. These parents naturally hoped that their children could have a good future. However, compared to their future, they naturally paid more attention to their health. For a moment, they were somewhat nervous. They didn't want to believe Jing Yunjiao's words, but they couldn't doubt her words at all. "Teacher Li, are you satisfied?" Jing Yunjiao said angrily. Li Xiaoyun suddenly reached out and rubbed her head. "Ah Zhao, when you speak so confidently, your body seems to be shining." He did it on purpose, but he also knew that she had the ability to convince people. Every time medical skills were involved, the confidence and radiance on her face could not be concealed. She was no longer as cold as usual. Instead, she exuded an amiable temperament from head to toe. There was a smile at the corner of her mouth, and her gaze was firm and gentle. The tone of every word she spoke was completely different from usual. Seeing her like this, he even forgot his own identity and wished that he could become her patient. To him, she was simply charming. Chapter 641. Jing Yunjiao struggled and pushed Li Xiaoyun's hand away, only to see him staring at her gently. There seemed to be a hint of worship. Li Xiaoyun, are you all right? Jing Yunjiao was speechless. Ah Zhao, I think I... Li Xiaoyun paused halfway and swallowed the rest of his words. There were some things he could not say now. This was the first time he realized that time passed so slowly. Jing Yunjiao was still a high school student. It was suffocating. What? Jing Yunjiao looked up. Li Xiaoyun smiled. Nothing. I just think you're so amazing. Can the boys in this class stand it? If you fall in love early, I'll be angry. Not only would he be angry, but if any pig dared to take his cabbage, he would definitely slaughter it. Li Xiaoyun, your image in my heart has already collapsed. Jing Yunjiao choked out. She even suspected that the Li Xiaoyun in front of her and the Li Xiaoyun in front of her were not the same person. Perhaps they were twin brothers. You'll find that it collapses even more in the future. Li Xiaoyun laughed, and his voice came faintly. The big bad wolf in his body had been holding back for a long time. He really wanted to swallow this girl right now. The two of them spoke very softly, but the room was noisy. They went from discussing the physical education class to discussing when the children went to bed. In the end, almost all of them realized that their children did not have more than 7 hours of rest. On average, they only had 5 or 6 hours of rest. This kind of time was almost unbearable for adults. It would have been fine if it was just a few days, but ever since school started, or even since the last school year, it had not changed. It was no wonder that the children were all listless. They were all like wilted flower buds. With so many discussions, guilt came quickly. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the class seemed to have changed. There were even a few aunties who were so distressed that they were about to cry. Not only was Teacher Chi shocked, but even the other students couldn't react in time. Were these still the parents who wanted them to study 24/7? Didn't they come to school to talk about results? Why did they suddenly... Ah Zhao, sorry, Ah Zhao is my name, Li Xiaoyun retorted. The other party was stunned for a moment before he changed the subject and said, Yun Zhao, can you take a look at my daughter? How is her health? She doesn't have a good appetite either. Oh right, her stomach hurts. Jing Yunjiao glanced at the female classmate. Naturally, he recognized her. He said, I know her. Her stomachache is probably caused by eating too quickly. The food that isn't chewed properly causes a burden on the digestive system, so it's easy to have stomachache. I see. The auntie sighed and glared at her child. You child, why are you in such a hurry? You're not allowed to eat lunch in the cafeteria anymore. Let's go home. Mom will cook for you. The girl stuck out her tongue and grinned at Jing Yunjiao. The next second, she was pulled back. However, just as one person left, the other students' parents also walked over. Some of them still didn't quite believe it, so they purposely tested Jing Yunjiao. They found that Jing Yunjiao had absolutely nothing to be suspicious of, so their attitude towards her became better and better. Teacher Li, you're really lucky. Jing Yunjiao is so capable at such a young age. People kept wandering in front of Jing Yunjiao. It was unknown who suddenly said this. When Xiao Haiqing and the others beside Jing Yunjiao heard this, they could not help but laugh out loud. Chapter 642. If they remembered correctly, when Li Xiaoyun first entered the door, there were people who were envious of Jing Yunjiao for having such a handsome brother. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, things would change? Yunjiao, I really admire you. We both studied medicine. How could I be so stupid? Gan Jinshen was completely convinced. Do you want me to praise you to comfort you? You know I'm not that kind of person. Jing Yunjiao looked at him and said. Gan Jinshen's mouth twitched. Suchu and Gan Jinshen's parents couldn't help but praise Jing Yunjiao. They naturally knew medicine, but they didn't think too much about it just now. Jiang Rong's expression had completely changed, and the shock in her eyes was self-evident. Jing Yunjiao had saved her son before, but at that time, she thought that it was just common knowledge in first aid. She only thought that Jing Yunjiao's reaction was fast and her courage was big, but she didn't think that Jing Yuanzhao actually had the ability to save him. Moreover, the way she talked about those illnesses just now was indeed very attractive, making people subconsciously listen. Although there were some things that they couldn't understand at all, they inexplicably felt that it was very reasonable. That influence was extremely strong, and it could even change the minds of so many people in such a short time. No wonder Xiao Haiqing changed so much. There must be someone around her who could influence her. Recently, she had been dreaming often. In her dreams, Xiao Haiqing couldn't fight her at all and was firmly held in her hands. But when she woke up, it was all for nothing. Thinking about the suffering she had suffered recently, Jiang Rong's face turned pale and she felt uncomfortable. Xiao Haiqing felt it and smiled gently. "Annie Jiang, you don't seem to be feeling well. Since that's the case, let Yunzhao take a look for you." After saying that, she grabbed her wrist and pressed it on the table in front of Jing Yuanzhao. Jiang Rong was in pain, but she tried her best to endure it. A 5-fingered red mark appeared on her wrist, and it was a shocking sight. Jing Yuanzhao did not refuse and raised his hand to take her pulse. But when he touched her wrist, a trace of surprise flashed through his eyes. He glanced at Jiang Rong and whispered in Xiao Haiqing's ear, "Jiang Rong is pregnant?" Xiao Haiqing raised her eyebrows. "Pregnant? How long?" Xiao Haiqing asked. "About a month ago. His pulse is still very light," Jing Yunzhao said. Xiao Haiqing was stunned for a while, but then she smiled. "Almost a month?" Since that was the case, it was hard to say who it belonged to. She was pregnant at almost the same time as she had sex with James. Maybe she could have given birth to someone else's child. Xiao Haiqing turned her head and stared at Jiang Rong with a smile. Jiang Rong felt a chill run down her spine. "Haiqing, what's wrong?" Jiang Rong looked like a frightened little wife. "Nothing. I'm just surprised that Annie Jiang's body is so healthy," Xiao Haiqing said with a smile. This child could be Father's, or it could be James. But if Father knew, he would definitely ask Jiang Rong to abort the child. But whether to keep the child or not, she still needed to consider carefully. She already had a younger brother, so it didn't matter if she had another one. But if it wasn't her younger brother or sister, Jiang Rong's life would be even worse. Unfortunately, she longed for her miserable days to come. "Yunzhao, can you give me some pregnancy medicine later?" Xiao Haiqing said with a smile. Jing Yunzhao nodded. Xiao Haiqing said to Jiang Rong, "Annie Jiang, I'll tell Father that from today onwards, you don't have to come back to Ning City. I'm already in my 3rd year of high school and need someone to take care of me. What do you think?" Chapter 643. Hearing Xiao Haiqing's words, Jiang Rong's face stiffened, but she immediately nodded. Okay. If she didn't return to Ning City, it meant that Xiao Daoan wouldn't touch her during this period of time. When she was in Ning City, although she wanted to go back to her parents' home, every time she went back, Xiao Daoan would immediately invite her back. Her parents couldn't keep her for long, and once she was brought back by her husband, she would definitely be taught a lesson. Although Xiao Haiqing's attitude was strange now, at least Xiao Haiqing wouldn't take the initiative to make a move on her. Jiang Rong was surprised and happy. Xiao Haiqing looked at her expression, and a trace of a contemptuous smile appeared in her eyes. At this time, the atmosphere in the class slowly became more amiable. Teacher Qi sorted out the results of the class and the situation with the parents, and the parent-teacher conference proceeded smoothly. The attitude of the students in the class towards Jing Yunzhao became better and better, especially those students who were originally under a lot of pressure. Their parents had more or less changed, causing them to be able to relax a little. Naturally, they were full of gratitude towards Jing Yunzhao. However, Jing Yunzhao had the same attitude from beginning to end. He was neither arrogant nor rash, which made people have a good impression of him. As soon as the parent-teacher conference ended, Jing Yunzhao contacted the parents and brothers of the once incomparably glorious Mrs. He. A few months later, in an ordinary courtyard in Ning City, Han Qin was lying on the bed. She had just eaten painkillers that she spent a lot of her private money to buy, so that she could sleep peacefully. However, the door was kicked open by someone, and another woman directly pulled Han Qin from the bed. "Sister-in-law, let go. I didn't sleep well last night. I want to rest now." Han Qin immediately struggled. The Han family's sister-in-law stared at her sister-in-law in disgust. "You want to rest? You've moved here for so long, but you haven't done any work. You were used to being a rich family's wife, so we won't say anything. We won't let you go out to work, but you should at least do some housework. Now, you have to stretch out your hand and open your mouth every day. Do you think your brother and I are nannies or servants? After all, Han Qin was once a member of the He family. He really wouldn't be so heartless as to completely cut off all ties with her. Even if they couldn't remarry, he should at least give her some alimony. However, they didn't expect that the reality was completely different from what they had imagined. Not only did they have no money, they even took back all the assets they had accumulated over the years. Her husband used to work in the He family's company, but he was fired now. The whole family didn't even have a job and could only rely on their savings. Not only that, they even had to send Hijiasi over today. There was going to be another freeloader in the family. When Han Qin heard that her sister-in-law was so rude, she immediately became angry. I've helped you a lot over the years. Now that I'm not feeling well, I just need you to take care of me. What right do you have to turn against me? She had asked her husband for the house they used to live in, and she had spent money to buy the car for her brother, not to mention the other expenses. That was in the past. What's more, the things you gave us are gone now. The Han family's sister-in-law didn't back down. In the past, the Han family had benefited from Han Qin. Although they weren't a rich family, they were still better than the poor. Their days were very comfortable, and they had even gotten used to their position after so many years. They didn't expect that one day, they would fall from heaven to hell. The Han family's sister-in-law didn't want to talk nonsense with her sister-in-law. She remembered how her sister-in-law used to look down on her every time she went to the He family's house. She snorted coldly and directly dragged her out by force. Chapter 644. Han Qin had been married into the He family for nearly 20 years. After being a rich lady for so long, her strength could no longer be compared to ordinary people. She was extremely delicate and couldn't be compared to her sister-in-law. Did you offend that Miss Jing? Han Qin. She told me to tell you that it's karma and that you should enjoy it. If you're living well, then your brother can forget about finding a job in this lifetime. You can't blame me if you want to blame someone. As soon as her sister-in-law said that, Jing Yunzhao's face suddenly appeared in Han Qin's mind. She had only seen that face once, but after that, her body began to suffer from pain and torment. Before that, she thought that she only needed to make some simple arrangements to thoroughly trap such a girl. So, at that time, in order to help her daughter vent her anger, she inquired about Jing Yunzhao's situation and then bribed a pair of parents. At that time, she thought that as long as that pair of parents looked after her well, no matter how capable Jing Yunzhao was, she wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. However, she didn't expect that Jing Yunzhao would personally send that pair of parents to prison. That was one thing, but she actually came looking for revenge. It turned out that her brother and sister-in-law treated her like this because of that wild girl. In her anger, she felt that the painkillers didn't seem to have much effect. Her whole body felt as if it was constantly being pricked by needles. At this time, Hijiasi was sent back from the hospital. Looking at the ordinary courtyard in front of her, Hijiasi couldn't stop crying. She stayed in the hospital for an extra month because she didn't believe that her father would completely abandon her. However, ever since her father kicked her out of the VIP ward, she really didn't see him again. When she could leave the hospital, she secretly ran to the He family. However, at that time, she found out that her father had remarried. The illegitimate son she hated the most in the past was now the real young master of the He family. That pair of mother and son humiliated her. Her father was clearly at home, but he simply refused to see her. In the end, he directly asked the security to kick her out. Hijiasi stepped into the courtyard with a puzzled heart. In the courtyard, her mother's hair was disheveled, and her aunt next to her had a ferocious expression. Just as she was about to scold her, her aunt walked over and grabbed her hair, dragging her over. I know you two don't know how to cook, but you should be able to do housework, right? Clean the courtyard and the stove in the kitchen. Make sure there's not a speck of dust. Otherwise, there won't be any dinner for you. Hijiasi's eyes widened as if she didn't recognize the woman in front of her. Was this still her aunt? That aunt who used to bow and scrape every time she saw her, wanting to get benefits from her? Mom, what's going on? Why is Dad doing this to us? Let's go back and look for him, okay? I don't want to live in this kind of lousy place. As soon as her aunt left, Jiasi cried. Han Qin's body was trembling from the pain, and her eyes were filled with tears. Your father knows that we killed someone. As soon as she said this, Jiasi felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. Mom, didn't you say it was fine? Didn't you say that Dad would never find out? Jiasi roared. Han Qin was even more flustered. Without the He family, she would have no money. Her private savings would soon be used up, and she wouldn't be able to afford painkillers. Cici, take Mom to beg Jing Yunjiao, okay? I've had enough. It's really painful. Han Qin burst into tears. When Jing Yunjiao was mentioned, a trace of fear flashed through He Jiasi's eyes. In his mind, the feeling of being shot by the man beside Jing Yunjiao floated up. She shook her head repeatedly. Chapter 645. For Jing Yunjiao, the mother and son had become parasites that couldn't even compare to ordinary people. If she had fallen into Han Qin and Jiasi's trap, her life would have been no different from Han Qin's. How could she ignore the pain of being tortured by her own family? Now that she saw that Han Qin and Jiasi weren't doing well, she was relieved. Cousin, do you want to call that brother by to ask about it? My dad said that there's a company that sells wine similar to Yuling wines, but the price is much cheaper. And because it's just listed, there's a lot of activity, so it's quite popular now. Seeing Jing Yunjiao in a daze, Su Chu thought she was worried about Yuling wines, so she quickly said. Jing Yunjiao was dazed for a moment, then she pursed her lips and smiled. It's okay. Brother Bai is happy now? Why? Su Chu was puzzled. Isn't this vicious competition in the business? Encountering this kind of thing should be irritating. After all, the other party's price was relatively low, and she heard that they spent a lot of money on publicity and invited a popular first-rate young man. After this hit, Yuling wines will definitely suffer a great loss. Jing Yunjiao secretly smiled. You'll know in a few days. Su Chu was even more confused after hearing this. Jing Yunjiao chuckled and didn't say much. When she went home at night, she called Pak Yuan to ask about the current situation. According to the original plan, because the other party's price was low, they snatched a lot of orders from Yuling Wines. At present, Yuling Wines was in a panic, but fortunately, it wasn't a listed company, and the capital chain was very complete, so there was no need to worry about a collapse. So, according to Jing Yunjiao's plan, they continued to produce. After all, it wouldn't be long before Yuling Wines showed its glory. Everything Zhua Haiyang and James did now was to pave the way for Yuling Wines. She really wanted to thank them in person. However, although Jing Yunjiao was just thinking about it, some people self-righteously came to the door. Zhua Haiyang was in high spirits. He wore an expensive suit and drove a luxurious car to the entrance of the school. When he saw Jing Yunjiao, he got out of the car. His shiny leather shoes were stained with dust, and the staff beside him immediately squatted down to help wipe it. It was as if a successful person was wagging its peacock tail, feeling pleased with itself. Miss Jing, Zhua Haiyang blocked Jing Yunjiao's path and called out with a smile, "Can we have a chat?" Zhua Haiyang wasn't old, and his appearance wasn't bad. From an outsider's point of view, they might even think of him as a gentleman. However, Jing Yunjiao was very clear that this person was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Is there anything boss one needs to say to a nobody like me? Jing Yunjiao asked even though he already knew the answer. Miss Jing, you may be young, but you're a smart person. You don't have to play dumb with me. Zhua Haiyang smiled and said, I made a reservation at Yu Tianxian. Do you want to do me the honor? Yu Tianxian? Jing Yunjiao snorted softly. Yu Tianxian's reputation was not small. It seemed that Zhua Haiyang knew about it, but he did not know that she was also the third boss of Yu Tianxian. That place was funded by Li Xiaoyun, managed by Du Lin, and opened with her providing the raw materials. In Du Lin's words, it was fine without Li Xiaoyun, but it couldn't do without her. Okay, let's go then, Jing Yunjiao said when she saw Zhua Haiyang's pretentious look. Chapter 646. Zhua Haiyang's expression relaxed, and his heart revealed some satisfaction. He pretended to be a gentleman and opened the door for Jing Yunjiao. This was Jing Yunjiao's first official meeting with Zhua Haiyang, but this time, she realized that she had not only seen him in the past, but also in the past. Whenever she was with Pak Yuan, she seemed to be able to see this person's figure around them. However, because it didn't seem like he was following her and it seemed more like a chance encounter, she didn't pay much attention to it. Now, it seemed that Zhua Haiyang had been interested in Yuling wine's recipe for a long time, but he didn't know that the recipe belonged to her, so although he was curious about her, he didn't make a move on her. The reason he appeared beside her at that time was probably because he was paying attention to Pak Yuan. Jing Yunjiao remained silent the whole way, and when she arrived at the restaurant, she was led to a private room upstairs by the waiter. I've heard that the dishes here are excellent, and you can't find any restaurant in Ning City that tastes better than Yutianxian. Miss Jing actually lives in Huaning County, so you should have tried it before, right? Zhua Haiyang smiled. His eyes seemed to be sizing her up, and there seemed to be a wretched expression that people didn't like. The waiter on the side was puzzled. He thought that Miss Jing had brought a guest over, but he didn't expect the other party to take the initiative to invite her. Since he invited Miss Jing, how could he not know her relationship with the owner? However, since Miss Jing didn't say anything, they naturally wouldn't open their mouths. I've been here, Jing Yunjiao concisely said. Mr. Zhua, if you have something to say, it's best that you say it quickly because my time is limited. Hee. Zhua Haiyang laughed. Miss Jing's temper really isn't good. No wonder she could make James so angry. I heard that he really went to see you before kicking his daughter out. It seems that it has something to do with you? What? Is Mr. Zhua here to denounce me? Come to think of it, you're James' dog, and He Jiasi is James' lover. It's only right that you seek justice for He Jiasi. Jing Yunjiao coldly laughed. Zhua Haiyang's face darkened when he heard this. He asked the waiter to pour some wine, but when he saw the exquisite wine bottle in the waiter's hand, a trace of disgust flashed in his eyes. No sea blue alcohol liquid? Zhua Haiyang asked with a frown. The sea blue alcohol solution was naturally a brand developed by the Ocean Company, and it was currently very popular. The waiter paused for a moment, then smiled and said, I'm sorry, sir. Our store pays attention to health, and all the brands of wine we use are produced by Yuling Wine. If you're not satisfied with white wine, we have other fruit wines, medicinal wines, rice wines, and even red wine. Zhua Haiyang's face turned ferocious when he heard this. He held his cup and sneered. Pay attention to health? So you're saying that the sea blue alcohol liquor isn't good for your health? It seems that your boss doesn't know how to do business. So far, this is the first time I've seen a restaurant that only buys one bottle of wine. Currently, his company had received countless orders. Because of the affordable price, many people who originally liked the Jade Spirit Wine Company began to buy the Sea Blue alcohol liquor series. It could be said that there was a tide of good reviews. However, there were still loyal fans of Yuling wines who were nitpicking. He actually said that it didn't taste as good as the Jade Spirit wine, and even said that he felt uncomfortable after drinking it. It was all bullshit. Those were just a bunch of people who were nitpicking. Zhua Haiyang drank it in one gulp, then wiped his mouth and said, Waiter, you can leave now. I'll call you if there's anything. The waiter glanced at Jing Yunjiao and was a little worried, because although this man looked well-dressed, he didn't seem very safe. Chapter 647. Jing Yunjiao nodded at the waiter. Only then did the waiter walk out hesitantly. However, he was still a little worried and turned to inform the manager. Once the waiter left, Zhua Haiyang crossed his legs and leaned back. He tapped his wine glass and said, Miss Jing, you don't have to worry. Mr. James and Miss He don't have a deep relationship. Most men are fickle. Besides, Miss He is partly responsible for Mr. James's disability, so he won't seek justice for Miss He. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and sneered. It didn't make a difference to her whether James sought justice for He Jiasi or not. It wouldn't be long before James's good days came to an end. But Miss Jing, you should continue to seek justice for yourself, right? Zhua Haiyang continued. As he spoke, he picked up another glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. Mr. Zhua, are you referring to the leak of the wine recipe? Jing Yunjiao's eyes flashed with contempt. Zhua Haiyang smiled. That's right. The leak of the wine recipe. You were the one who sold Yuling wine's recipe to Pak Yuan. Since that's the case, You should have signed a series of confidentiality agreements. Now that the recipe has been leaked, how can Pak Yuan not blame you? If I'm not wrong, you'll have to pay a large sum of money for the breach of contract, right? As soon as he said that, Jing Yunjiao inexplicably wanted to laugh. So, Jing Yunjiao raised her eyebrows, her face extremely cold. Mr. James and I are partners now. If I step forward, Mr. James will definitely help you. We can solve the breach of contract for you, but the premise is that you have to stand on the right side. Let's put it this way. Yuling Wines releases new products every once in a while. It seems like you have a lot of wine recipes in your hands. How about you sell them to us? Zhuo Haiyang continued. Zhuo Haiyang's face was full of confidence, and a thick, evil smile appeared on his lips. As he spoke, he moved closer to her. You're so young and beautiful. Your future is bright. It would be a pity if you were dragged down by Yuling Wines. Zhuo Haiyang's body moved closer to Jing Yunjiao's side. His hand was not obedient as it rested on the back of Jing Yunjiao's chair. Jing Yunjiao picked up the wine glass on the table and took a sip. Mr. Zhuo, are you a child? So childish? Jing Yunjiao, don't test my patience. You have a pretty face. Why are you so loyal to Pak Yuan? In terms of looks, I'm not any worse than Pak Yuan, right? And I'm not like Mr. James who likes to change women. I'm very clean around me. Zhuo Haiyang added. This Jing Yunjiao was a treasure that could make money. He didn't know how many wine recipes she had, but it had to be said that she was destined to bring wealth. Look at Pak Yuan. When he was in the capital, his wife and child had run away with someone else. But after he came back and met Jing Yunjiao, his life started to become smoother and smoother. If he didn't keep such a prosperous life, it would be a pity. Moreover, although she was still young, her appearance was outstanding. She was 10,000 times better than He Jiasi. Jing Yunjiao's hand movements paused. From the looks of it, you want both the wine recipe and the person? Jing Yunjiao's expression became serious as she spoke meaningfully. It's a good deal, isn't it? You give me the wine recipe, I'll give you money and protect you. As long as you're obedient, I can give you more in the future. You might not know this, but Yuling Wines won't be able to last much longer. I've already snatched most of their orders. I have Mr. James help and hired the best publicity team. Now the whole city knows about the sea blue alcohol liquid. Chapter 648. Zhuo Haiyang's face was full of pride. He looked at Jing Yunjiao as if he was determined to win. Towards the Jade Spirit Wine Company, his heart loathed it to the extreme. He wished that he could make Bai Yuan collapse immediately, not for any other reason, but because this man made him feel jealous. He and his father had put in a lot of effort to create a good wine brand, but after so many years of hard work, the wine they produced was still not popular with the public. However, Pak Yuan, a newbie, had succeeded in one shot and became the leader of Ning City's wine industry. Bai Yuan's luck was good, and he got some benefits from Jing Yunjiao, but he had to admit that Jing Yunjiao's eyesight was really bad. If Jing Yunjiao had contacted a few more companies before selling the wine recipe, he would have known that he was more capable and had a better future than Pak Yuan. Just like now, didn't he succeed? Now, on the streets, on various transportation platforms, on the internet, and on television, there were advertisements for the Sea Blue alcohol liquor series everywhere. He, Zhuo Haiyang, would soon enter the real upper class. In the future, he would make those few wines a symbol of tradition and national essence. When that time came, everyone would think of his Sea Blue alcohol liquor when they thought of wine. Zhuo Haiyang's eyes were a little crazy. He continued, Jing Yunjiao, you have been with Pak Yuan for so long, but I'm afraid you haven't benefited much from it, right? You are still studying in a small place like Huaning County. Look at what you are wearing. What's the difference between you and an ordinary person? You have brought him so much wealth, but now that the wine recipe has been leaked, you are in debt. Are you willing to accept this? As he spoke, Zhuo Haiyang reached out his hand, as if he was going to touch Jing Yunjiao's face. Jing Yunjiao put down his wine glass and grabbed his wrist. He twisted it and slammed it on the table. Mr. Zhuo, who told you that I have to pay the penalty? Jing Yunjiao mocked. How arrogant. Zhuo Haiyang was stunned. What do you mean? You don't have to pay the penalty? Impossible. Pak Yuan is definitely not a generous person. Even if he doesn't ask you to pay now, it won't be long before he calculates it with you. Do you know how much Yuling Wines has lost this time? The wine produced will soon have no place to sell, and when that time comes, it will all go to waste. Zhuo Haiyang, your paranoia is quite serious. Jing Yunzhao stood up. When Zhuo Haiyang heard this, his expression turned ugly. He rubbed his wrist and was about to step forward again. Jing Yunzhao snorted coldly, the corner of her lips curling up as she sent a kick towards his crotch. Mr. Zhuo, why are you asking for trouble so early? Originally, you could still be happy for a while. You want my wine recipe and my people? Didn't she look in the mirror before leaving the house? Calling you ugly is already a compliment. So can you not disgust me? After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, he picked up a dish from the table and placed it directly on Zhuo Haiyang's head. Zhuo Haiyang covered his lower body and gritted his teeth as he howled. As soon as he shouted, a few waiters rushed in. Miss Jing, are you all right? Before they could finish, they saw Zhuo Haiyang's sorry state and were all shocked. At this moment, Du Lin and Li Xiaoyun also rushed over. Jing Yunzhao saw this and a trace of guilt flashed across his face. In the next second, he suddenly walked over to Li Xiaoyun and hid behind him. He pointed at Zhuo Haiyang and said innocently, he wanted to take advantage of me. Her kick was very serious. If Zhuo Haiyang went for a checkup, it wouldn't do her any good. So at this critical moment, it was only right to show weakness. Li Xiaoyun's face turned cold. Did you all see that? This man wants to take advantage of A Zhao? Everyone was stunned. Get physical with her? They didn't see it, right? But before they could react, Du Lin nodded cooperatively. In the next second, Li Xiaoyun said, the witnesses are all here. Call the police and let him go to the police station to clear his head. Chapter 649. Du Lin had always treated Li Xiaoyun's words as an imperial edict. When he heard this, he happily asked someone to call the police. The waiters didn't react, but after a while, they immediately did it. Although they didn't see it with their own eyes, they could guess. Jing Yunzhao was usually very obedient, and she was very considerate to the staff here. If she wasn't bullied by this stinky man, how could such a good-tempered girl hit him? Maybe he used improper reasons to force Jing Yunzhao to talk to him. Everyone's imagination was very developed, and they all showed great enthusiasm. There were even two strong men who directly looked at Zhuo Haiyang, afraid that he would run away. Zhuo Haiyang covered his crotch in pain. When he saw that the hotel manager dared to call the police, he suddenly became angry. You're the owner of this restaurant, right? Do you know who I am? Zhuo Haiyang gritted his teeth. His legs were splayed out, and the tips of his feet were on the ground. The way he looked like he couldn't stand still made many waitresses laugh and curse him. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows and teased. Then tell me, who are you? You should have heard of the Ocean Food Company, right? I'm Zhuo Haiyang, the CEO of the Ocean Food Company. What kind of woman can I get? How could I touch a little girl like her? She was the one who failed to seduce me, so she hit me. You all have to be my witness. Zhuo Haiyang said angrily. When Li Xiaoyun heard this, he chuckled, but that smile made people's hearts turn cold. Although many of the waitresses in this restaurant thought that Li Xiaoyun was handsome, they were very clear that this man was absolutely unattainable. There were colleagues who had thoughts about him and even dared to talk to him, but Li Xiaoyun didn't care at all. Later on, there were female colleagues who used unorthodox methods to attract Li Xiaoyun's attention, but the result was that Li Xiaoyun would call the security to throw them out directly, without any mercy. Therefore, everyone had a respectful attitude towards this man. They knew that his temper wasn't good, and they were very clear that this was a sign that he was going to be angry. So you're the CEO of the Ocean Food Company? Li Xiaoyun smiled and said, I heard that you've been in the limelight recently. It's good that you know. Zhuo Haiyang tried his best to suppress the tearing pain. He straightened his suit and said, I asked Jing Yunzhao to come here to talk about business, but I didn't expect her to not give me any face and hit me so hard. I was injured in your shop, so you should at least take some responsibility, right? Although he was a little embarrassed now, he was still the CEO of a company, and the company was now famous. He believed that the person in front of him would not be so stupid. Zhuo Haiyang's face was pale, and large beads of sweat kept dripping down. He seemed to have suffered a lot. However, just when he thought that Li Xiaoyun was going to relent, he heard him say to Jing Yunzhao, "Would it be more lively if we invited 2 reporters at this time? It should be pretty good." The CEO of the ocean company actually threatened an underage female student and was sent to the police station after failing to get physical with her. "It will definitely improve the reputation of the ocean company," Du Lin also said. Zhuo Haiyang glared at him. "How dare you? You'll know whether I dare or not when you see it." Li Xiaoyun's voice was faint, but it had a coldness that made people's hearts tremble. After a while, the police rushed over. Du Lin took a few photos according to Li Xiaoyun's instructions. In the photos, he only saw Zhuo Haiyang being held down by the police. His face was pale, and he looked like he was angry and injured. Chapter 650. Of course, Zhuo Haiyang refused to admit it, but Jing Yunzhao kept her head down and didn't say a word. The police officers looked at her and couldn't help but sympathize with her. The way this gentleman looked at Miss Jing was very strange. Miss Jing didn't even dare to speak in front of him. When we came in, this Mr. Zhuo wanted to do something to Miss Jing. Miss Jing instinctively kicked him to protect herself. Anyway, Miss Jing didn't do it on purpose. He forced her to. A waiter used his imagination and explained to the police. "You fucking bullshit." Zhuo Haiyang was furious when he heard that. He pointed at the waiter and scolded him. He did have feelings for Jing Yunzhao and was even prepared to do something to her. However, before he could even touch Jing Yunzhao's hair, he was kicked by Jing Yunzhao. The pain in his lower body still hadn't subsided. He even suspected that he was crippled by Jing Yunzhao's kick. However, this Utiancian guy was lying through his teeth. He even said that he saw him hit Jing Yunzhao. How was that possible? Was this shop owner's brain damaged? He knew that he was Chairman Zhuo, but he didn't give him any face. He was protecting a little girl. As soon as Zhuo Haiyang opened his mouth, the police frowned. Although this was not a big case, Yu Tianxian was very famous in the county. No matter what, they had to give face to the boss here. Moreover, with the help of these waiters, it was impossible that Zhuo Haiyang did not do anything wrong. Therefore, they looked at Zhuo Haiyang with disgust and disdain. They immediately arrested him and left. At this time, with Li Xiaoyun's permission, Du Lin contacted the reporters he knew and sent them the photos he took. Zhuo Haiyang didn't expect that he would get into trouble after coming here to negotiate with Jing Yunzhao. Not only that, but when he asked his secretary to bail him out of the police station, a few more reporters appeared. Zhuo Haiyang's face instantly darkened. "President Zhuo, there's a post on the internet saying that you were stripped of your license for attempting to molest a girl." The secretary's face flushed red. She was in a difficult position and subconsciously looked at Zhuo Haiyang's lower body. No wonder he felt that President Zhuo's walking posture was a little strange. It turned out that he had been hit there. When Zhuo Haiyang heard this, he was so angry that he threw the sunglasses in his hand. He gritted his teeth and said, "Let the PR handle it. Come with me to the hospital now." It wasn't that he hadn't hurt himself in the past, but it usually stopped hurting after a few minutes. However, this time, his legs weren't listening to him. He had a bad feeling that the injury was really serious. However, the moment he said that, the secretary's expression changed. Director Zhuo, are you all right?" Zhuo Haiyang glared at the secretary and got into the car. He had injured his family jewels. How could he be fine? This secretary used to be quite smart. Why would she ask such a stupid question at this time? Zhuo Haiyang rushed to the hospital immediately. He was shocked when he saw that his injuries were not light. If they were any more serious, he would have really become a eunuch. Although he was still a man, he had to stay in the hospital to recuperate. The way the doctor looked at him was a little strange, which made him feel extremely embarrassed. At this time, the post about harassing the female student was also pushed to the top. Moreover, the main character of the post was the CEO of Haiyang Company, so it received a lot of attention. Chapter 651. Zhuo Haiyang had hired an A-list celebrity to be his spokesperson, and his fans were extremely powerful. When they found out about the scandal, they were all furious. After all, if the company had a bad reputation, it would have a bad impact on their idol. Therefore, Zhua Haiyang was scolded quite badly. Ocean Company is trash. Our brother Sean worked so hard to be their spokesperson, but their boss dared to molest underage girls. That's inhumane. That's right. But I heard that Ocean Company's boss is not only perverted, but the source of their products is also not legal. They stole Yuling Wine's wine recipe and maliciously competed with them. Many loyal fans of Yuling Wines have been cursing outside Ocean Company's building every day. Here's a picture. I know about the second floor's secret. Director Bai of Jade Spirit Wines is a very responsible person. The sales of the company's products have always been good. He's a good boss who works hard and works hard. Zhua Haiyang's wine recipe was stolen from Jade Spirit Wines. You'll know once you try it. The taste is basically the same, but Jade Spirit Wines taste better. Zhua Haiyang is a scumbag. He can't sell his own wine, so he steals others. He has been suppressing Yuling Wines just because he found an investment. I feel sorry for CEO Bai for 10 minutes. I advise you not to buy Ocean Company's wine. Although the taste is similar to Yuling Wines, the difference is huge. You'll feel hot and uncomfortable. It's not good for your body. I advise you not to be greedy. If you want to drink good wine, you should buy the authentic Yuling Wines. Drinking too much fake wine could kill you. Is that Yuling Wine's marketing team? Ocean Company's wine is now much more famous than Yuling Wines. Idiot, is it good to be famous? Fake wine is fake wine. My grandfather and uncles all love Yuling Wines, but because they were greedy, they bought Ocean Company's wine and tasted it. In the end, they couldn't sleep the whole night after drinking it. The taste is the same, but the effect is different. Yuling Wine's nourishment. Drinking wine nourishes the body? I'm shocked. In the post, there were endless arguments and voices. But without a doubt, Yuling Wines became famous because of this. The Ocean Company's advertisement was so big that it could be seen almost everywhere. And because the wine tasted really good, it was quite popular. However, if it was the first time tasting Ocean Company's wine, one would only feel that some parts were lacking or a slight discomfort in the body, but it was not serious, so it would not be discovered. However, if one drank it a few more times, the discomfort would become more obvious. As soon as someone mentioned it in the post, it quickly spread like wildfire outside. What the hell is going on? Zhua Haiyang, how did you create such a scandal? I'm so disappointed. James sat in his wheelchair and pointed at Zhua Haiyang as he cursed. Zhua Haiyang didn't look too good either. He said solemnly, Mr. James, I was also set up. It's all because of that Jing Yunjiao. I only wanted to buy the remaining wine recipes from her, but who knew that she would suddenly seduce me? After I rejected her, she actually made a move on me, and then joined forces with the people from that restaurant, causing the police to not listen to me at all. Also, those photos were taken by the people around Jing Yunjiao. Zhua Hai said arrogantly. Chapter 652. It was just a post, and he thought it was nothing much. Who knew that after deleting one post after another, more posts would pop up? That was fine, but who knew that the netizens who were still talking about him molesting girls at the start would suddenly talk about the sea blue alcohol solution? It wasn't the first time that someone said there was something wrong with his liquor. They were just a bunch of stupid people. The liquor tasted the same, so how could there be a problem? Zhua Haiyang, I didn't spend so much money to advertise Yuling Wines. You'd better settle this quickly. Otherwise, we'll lose a lot of money. James glared at Zhua Haiyang and said with dissatisfaction, if Pak Yuan hadn't rejected his investment, he wouldn't have chosen Zhua Haiyang. If he had known that Zhua Haiyang was so useless, he would have invested the money in a more suitable company. Zhua Haiyang was in a difficult position, and he was extremely frustrated. I understand, Mr. James. Don't worry, this matter will be resolved. That better be the case. James snorted, and the people behind him pushed him out in his wheelchair. Looking at James' back, Zhua Haiyang's head was about to explode. He thought for a while, then said to the people beside him, contact Jin Yushan and ask him to express his position in a public place. Also, get the public relations department to write a statement. If anyone spreads rumors again, our company will pursue legal action. The staff beside him nodded and quickly got to work. That day, an interview with the popular A-lister, Jing Yushan, appeared on the internet. Jing Yuanzhao stared at the person on the screen, deep in thought. This Jing Yushan was very famous. Before endorsing the Ocean Company's products, he had just acted in a few popular idol dramas. He was someone who relied on his looks to make a living. While he was popular, he quickly took on many advertisements, including cars, cosmetics, snacks, and so on. He took the opportunity to make money, so that he wouldn't be able to make money when he was outdated. However, it seemed that this person's management company didn't know how to pick advertisements. The Ocean Company's liquor had just been released, and it was unknown if it had the ability to develop in the long run, but they had already taken on advertisements for him. Now that the Ocean Company's reputation was damaged, it wasn't a good thing for him. As Jing Yuanzhao was reading, Xiao Haiqing called. Yuanzhao, the time has come. On the other end of the phone, Xiao Haiqing's voice carried a hint of a smile as she spoke. Jing Yuanzhao naturally knew what the timing was. He immediately replied, "Is there a problem with the people you arranged? If the news spreads, the Ocean Company will also send people to investigate. Don't expose yourself." "Don't worry, I can still do such a small thing." Xiao Haiqing smiled. She had already found someone to bribe them. She had asked her old friends to bribe them. Even though they were bribed, the people involved had no idea about the whole situation. The wine they were given was indeed a product produced by the Ocean Company. It was just that they had added a little extra. As for the extra, only she and Jing Yuanzhao knew about it. Those people were mainly responsible for causing trouble, and the bigger the trouble, the better. James and Zhua Haiyang had schemed against her and threatened her, so they should have been prepared for her retaliation. After talking to Jing Yuanzhao, Xiao Haiqing went straight to the plan. The next morning, 2 more patients were admitted to Serene City Hospital. Both of them had high fevers, their lips were red and swollen, and there were rashes on the surface of their bodies. They looked very serious. That afternoon, another person was admitted to the hospital with the same condition. The next day, another one appeared. Another day, 2 patients. The same condition appeared on different people, which immediately attracted the attention of the hospital. They were afraid that it was an epidemic, but after an investigation, they found that the patients had drunk the Ocean Company's ocean blue alcohol before they fell ill. Chapter 653. For the next few days, the people who drank the sea blue liquor were admitted to the hospital one after another. The news spread like wildfire. The hospital was suddenly filled with countless reporters, all of them targeting those few patients. After all, the reputation of the Ocean Company had been getting worse and worse since a few days ago. Netizens had all kinds of opinions. Some even specifically drank Yuling wines and the Ocean Company's liquor to compare. Many people felt that the Yuling wine's product made their body feel better after drinking it. However, there was also a group of people who felt that the Ocean Company's reputation was better, so they seemed to have a bigger business and were even more convinced of this brand. Zhua Haiyang even released a statement a few days ago, saying that the molestation incident was purely a misunderstanding. He even said that if anyone continued to cause trouble, they would be held accountable. This also made it seem like the matter was going to be put to rest. However, no one expected that when everyone thought that this incident would fade from the public eye, the Ocean Company's liquor actually had a problem. I've always liked drinking and would drink a few glasses every day. In the past, I drank both liquor and beer. Later, I drank the 7-star wine produced by Yuling Wine Company. However, recently, everyone said that the sea blue alcohol solution tasted the same as the 7-star wine and was 20 yuan cheaper. Since I bought a lot, I was greedy and bought a few boxes. I realized that the taste was indeed similar. However, the difference between the 7-star wine and the 7-star wine was that after drinking it, I felt hot and uncomfortable all over and my body turned red. However, it wasn't that serious the first time, so I didn't think too much about it. My situation is similar to his. I drink it every day. Isn't it advertised on TV every day? I thought it was a big brand, but I didn't expect it to be so harmful. That's right. When I fell sick, my family and work matters were all delayed. I've already contacted a lawyer. The Ocean Company must give me an explanation. After a few days, 10 to 20 patients were all very sure that they had been cheated by the Ocean Company. When this interview was released, the public was in an uproar. Many people looked back and thought that when they drank the sea blue liquor, it did feel a little different. Although some people like to be cheap, they also knew that cheap things weren't good. So when the ocean company got into trouble, more people were stepped on. Jing Yunzhao looked at the report. When the time was right, he would let Pak Yuan appear in front of the public. After the ocean company's scandal, many people called for Pak Yuan. The public waited for a long time, but Yuling Wines didn't say anything. Now that Pak Yuan finally appeared, he received a lot of attention. In front of the camera, Pak Yuan looked calm. Mr. Bai, I wonder if you've heard about the recent matters regarding the ocean company? Do you agree that the wine produced by that company is exactly the same as Yuling Wines? The reporter asked. Pak Yuan smiled. If I say it's exactly the same, then it should be. I've tasted it a few days ago, so I know. I can't be too direct. I can only say that the brewing process of our products is very complicated, and the requirements for the raw materials are also very high. Especially the 7-star liquor, the age of the herbs and other aspects are limited. There are many imitations of fake wines out there, and those wines definitely can't reach the level of our Yuling Wines. But speaking of which, our Yuling Wines lost a wine recipe before. But that recipe wasn't very important because it was something that was eliminated. People who are prone to excessive heat can't take it. Otherwise, their whole body will feel like it's wrapped by a fire snake, and they won't be able to sleep. Chapter 654. Since Pak Yuan had already appeared, there was no way he would give Zhua Haiyang a chance to make a comeback. Thus, he continued, but don't worry. Although the wine recipe is obsolete, it won't endanger your life. Of course, if you drink too much, it will definitely affect your body's functions. So in the future, when you buy Yuling Wine's products, please pay attention to the anti-counterfeit label. If you buy the wrong wine and feel uncomfortable after drinking it, you must stop drinking it. In addition, several of Yuling Wine's products contain medicinal ingredients. We are not a company that demands huge profits, so this price is definitely worthy of our conscience. Everyone could hear the hidden meaning in Pak Yuan's words. Yuling Wine's price was worthy of their conscience, which implied that the ocean company had used inferior raw materials to lower the price and maliciously compete with them. The reporters were excited. After writing their articles, they hurriedly sent them out. Sure enough, the click-through rate increased rapidly. At the entrance of the ocean company, many people gathered there with boxes of sea blue alcohol. Some held loudspeakers, some held banners, and some took videos. They pointed at the building and cursed. Unscrupulous profiteers. How dare they sell Yuling Wine's obsolete product to consumers? Refund. Compensate. One after another, it was as if the glass of the building was about to shatter. Zhua Haiyang hid inside and looked through the window. Seeing the sea of people, he was so angry that his legs trembled. How could this be? How could that wine recipe be Yuling Wine's obsolete trash? He had tasted it before, and it tasted exactly the same. In the room, other than Zhua Haiyang, James was also in a terrible fix. He estimated the investment to be 300 million, but in reality, he had invested more money in the ocean company. He had bought shares in the company and expanded the company's factory. Although Zhua Haiyang was still the legal person in charge, now that something had happened, he couldn't escape responsibility. Previously, he had been in the limelight, and orders had been coming in for the past few days. He had expected business to get better, so he had produced a lot of wine in advance. The factory's warehouse was packed with goods, but now, there were endless calls of orders being refunded. That was fine, but these goods were either half paid or not paid at all. They were in big trouble. What the hell is going on? Didn't I tell you to spend money to silence those poison people? James said in broken English. Zhua Haiyang was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Mr. James, those people didn't even take any money. Do you think there's something wrong with the wine recipe? Zhua Haiyang asked again. He couldn't help but suspect this. After all, if this wasn't the case, Pak Yuan wouldn't have said such a thing in front of everyone. Maybe Xiao Haiqing stole the wrong thing, or maybe she did it on purpose. Thinking of this, Zhua Haiyang shuddered. In his mind, he recalled Xiao Haiqing's face. She was as beautiful as the sun, wild and unruly. She even sent her stepmother to James. Not only that, She even used a new wine recipe in exchange for her stepmother's virginity. Could such a vengeful person really be so obedient? At this time, Zhuo Haiyang's mind was completely messed up by the noise outside, but the things he thought about were the most correct. When James heard this, he also began to have doubts. He asked Zhuo Haiyang to call Xiao Haiqing. The phone rang again and again before Xiao Haiqing's voice could be heard. Chapter 655. Xiao Haiqing's voice carried a hint of laziness. Especially when she sensed Zhuo Haiyang's anxious tone, she revealed a trace of a smile. Xiao Haiqing, what's going on? Why did Pak Yuan say that the wine recipe was discarded? How did you do it? Didn't you say that it was foolproof? Zhuo Haiyang roared. Xiao Haiqing felt uncomfortable with his voice. She put the phone away and rubbed her ears. Then, she said slowly, you only asked me to steal the wine recipe, and I did it. As for whether the wine recipe is real or fake, how would I know? I'm not Jing Yunjiao. I don't have the ability to determine if it's real or fake. Only now did she realize that the wine recipe was fake. Unfortunately, it was too late. Zhuo Haiyang wanted to throw the phone away when he heard that. He gritted his teeth and said, Xiao Haiqing, do you know what you're doing? I said that as long as you do what we ask, you can still live a clean life. Otherwise, you'll lose your reputation. Sure enough, you were lying when you said that you returned all the photos to me. Xiao Haiqing laughed. President Zhuo, we're in the same boat. The photos you gave me are the original ones, but not the only ones. The wine recipe I gave you tastes similar, but the effects are different. Isn't this a fair deal? Did he think she was a fool? No matter what she did, the result would be the same. Even if she really betrayed Jing Yunjiao and gave him the real wine recipe, Zhuo Haiyang would never give her all the photos. He and James were insidious people. There was no way to win a deal with such people. Since she couldn't get the photos back, she might as well die together. No matter what, James and Zhuo Haiyang would have a worse life than hers. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, Zhuo Haiyang couldn't hold back anymore. He picked up the things on the table and smashed them on the floor. Bitch. If you want to lose your reputation, I'll fulfill your wish. It's up to you if you want to announce it. After all, I won't have a good ending if the photos fall into your hands. Xiao Haiqing's voice was heard again. Then, she hung up on Zhuo Haiyang. Hearing the busy tone, Zhuo Haiyang gritted his teeth and threw his phone out in a perfect arc. Xiao Haiqing put down her phone. Zhang Rong, who was beside her, carefully handed her a peeled apple. Haiqing. About the ocean company. Annie Jiang, it seems that you still can't forget James? Xiao Haiqing raised her voice and said, but I'm sorry to disappoint you, because James can't even take care of himself. I'm afraid he doesn't have time to reminisce with you. Is James going to collapse? Zhang Rong was slightly disappointed. In fact, she had wanted to look for James these days, but she didn't have the chance. Zhang Rong sighed. I think I heard the other party say something about losing his reputation. Just mind your own business. Xiao Haiqing's gaze turned cold. Zhang Rong immediately shut her mouth. Xiao Haiqing took a bite of the apple and returned to her bedroom. Thinking about the photos, a trace of determination flashed across her face. She had to choose a path to walk down. She could either be like Zhang Rong and be a yes man for something that could be used against her, or she could fight to survive. It was just reputation and rumors. She could just sacrifice herself. Not long after the phone call ended, Zhuo Haiyang angrily posted the photos. He knew that Xiao Haiqing was a student of No. 1 middle school, so he purposely chose the school's forum. After posting the photos, he didn't have time to care about it because the investigators had already come to his door and ordered him to take back all the products he had sold. The loss was huge. Inside Jing Yunjiao's house, the sound of Su Chu frantically knocking on the door could be heard. When Jing Yunjiao opened the door, she saw Su Chu hugging her laptop and shouting anxiously, Biaojia, look at these photos, it's Haiqing. Chapter 656. Jing Yunjiao looked at the computer in Su Chu's hand. When his gaze fell, his breathing seemed to stop for a moment. There were a few photos in the post. The photos were very clear, and it was obvious that the female lead was Xiao Haiqing. On the night of Xiao Haiqing's accident, she was the one who brought her back. Therefore, She remembered Xiao Haiqing's state and the clothes she was wearing. Therefore, there was no doubt that the photos were of what happened at Zhua Haiyang's apartment that day. I can't open it now. The two of them were looking at it when they realized that there was an error on the webpage. Suchu was so anxious that she was about to cry. Someone must have deleted it, but there were a lot of comments just now. Someone must have taken a screenshot of the photos. In the photos, Xiao Haiqing was wearing a gown, but she looked very embarrassed. There was even a mosaic of a man lying on top of her. Their actions were intimate, and because of the angle, outsiders would not think that Xiao Haiqing was not willing. Jing Yunzhao was also flustered. He recalled Xiao Haiqing's recent actions and suddenly had a feeling that she had already guessed it. He quickly called Xiao Haiqing, but the phone was turned off. He could not get through it all. I'll go out and find someone. Jing Yunzhao picked up his coat and prepared to go out. Xiao Haiqing was not the kind of person who would feel sorry for herself. She was not worried that she would take things too hard, but at this time, if she was not by her side, she would not feel at ease. When Suchu heard this, she was too lazy to care about the computer in her hand. I'll go with you. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her and nodded. At this time, Zhang Rong's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and carefully said to Xiao Haiqing, Haiqing, it seems to be your class teacher. Hang up? Xiao Haiqing said coldly. She had seen those photos before. No matter the angle or the scene, they were all perfect. Therefore, no matter how she explained to others, no one would believe that she was forced. Since she knew that no one would believe her, why should she waste her breath? The post with the very clear photo had already been deleted, but in the blink of an eye, someone enthusiastically posted the edited photo again. In this school forum, besides the students, there were also many teachers and parents. Therefore, those comments stood on the moral high ground, criticizing her as a bad student who did not know how to behave. Outsiders were not fools. As long as they saw it, they would know that the house in the photo was slightly luxurious. Of course, some people would imagine that she was a materialistic girl. Zhang Rong, who was standing at the side, was also shocked when she saw those posts. However, in the next second, a trace of joy appeared in his heart. It turned out that she wasn't the only one who had been photographed. Xiao Haiqing had also been exposed. It seemed that it had something to do with the phone call she had received earlier. Auntie Jiang, you seem to be quite happy, but there's something that makes you even happier that I haven't told you. That is, Auntie, you're pregnant. Xiao Haiqing smiled coldly, her eyes full of disdain. As soon as he said that, the things in Zhang Rong's hands fell to the ground. What did you say? His voice instantly became high-pitched, incomparably sharp. Pregnant? Why didn't she know? I'll soon have a younger brother or sister. This is a happy thing, Auntie Jiang, don't you think so? Xiao Haiqing said again. Haiqing, that's impossible. How could you know that I'm pregnant? Something that even I don't know. Did Jing Yunzhao say it? Chapter 657. Shock flashed through Zhang Rong's eyes. She hadn't seen a doctor recently, nor did she buy anything for testing, nor did she show any signs of pregnancy. The only way to know that she was pregnant should be when Xiao Haiqing took her pulse. That's right, I trust her medical skills. The child is more than a month old now. Xiao Haiqing smiled. Her expression was cold and chilling. Zhang Rong's heart trembled violently, and she didn't know what to do. Because she was pregnant, Xiao Haiqing didn't let her return to Xiao Daoan's side. More than a month, so it was hard to say whether the child was Xiao Daoan's or James's. Why did you only tell me now? You already knew. Auntie Jiang, if I told you that you were pregnant, you would go to James immediately, right? You can't get what you want from my father. With this child, you can ask James to give you a future, but do you think I'll let you go? As for now, James can't even take care of himself. He invested so much money in the ocean company, and now he's lost everything. So even if you find him, it's useless. Xiao Haiqing's attitude was cold. You, Xiao Haiqing, why are you so vicious? What do you want me to do? Zhang Rong roared, looking confused. I have to abort this child. Then go ahead and abort it. As long as the child is gone, the things in my hands will be posted online. Anyway, I've already embarrassed myself, so it's good to have someone to accompany me, don't you think? Xiao Haiqing smiled faintly. At this moment, the doorbell rang. Xiao Haiqing pursed her lips and smiled. She got up and opened the door. Jiang Rong stood there stiffly as if she was struck by lightning. Like Xiao Haiqing? She definitely wouldn't. She saw a little bit of the comments on the internet just now. The whole article was saying that Xiao Haiqing was promiscuous. She didn't want to be the target of others' insults. But if that was the case, how could she give birth to the child? Jiang Rong touched her belly, her mood extremely complicated. At this moment, Jing Yunjiao walked in and stared at Xiao Haiqing. You knew that they had something on you? Why didn't you tell me? Yunjiao, I don't want you to worry. Xiao Haiqing smiled and dragged her into the house. It's okay. You see, I don't care. Doesn't matter? Xiao Haiqing, do you even have a brain? Do you know what will happen if those things get out? Number 1 middle school will not keep you. Forget about the demerits. You will definitely be expelled. What are you going to do then? Count on Xiao Daoan? Jing Yunjiao was extremely furious. That was not the main point. What she cared about was that Xiao Haiqing might be judged by others for the rest of her life. Look at you. Things are already like this. It's useless for you to yell at me. Xiao Haiqing looked like a little wife. Yunjiao, the thing is in their hands. What can we do to get it back? Should he use force? Just like how you broke into the He family? That's too unrealistic. He can make as many copies of these things as he wants. I can hide for a while, but I can't hide forever. Sooner or later, I will have to face it. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, she raised her hand and handed Xiao Haiqing a glass of water. Drink some water and calm down. What I want to do most now is to kill James and Zhuo Haiyang. Jing Yunjiao rubbed the space between her eyebrows and drank the glass of water in one gulp. Hurting the enemy by 1,000, but hurting yourself by 800. Xiao Haiqing, you're really stupid. Jing Yunjiao took a deep breath and squeezed out a sentence. Chapter 658. Ever since her rebirth, she had always prioritized herself. She could hurt others, but she would never put herself in harm's way. She knew that it wasn't easy for her to be reborn, and she didn't want to be worthless like her previous life. Ever since she met Xiao Haiqing, she had been thinking about Xiao Haiqing's past. However, she was in prison at that time, so she didn't know much about it. She couldn't help Xiao Haiqing avoid trouble in advance. She could only teach her martial arts and other things suitable for her, hoping that she would become better. She didn't expect her to be so ruthless. She wouldn't even say a word to her at a time like this. Haiqing, can we help you explain to the director? Suchu tugged at Xiao Haiqing's clothes. Xiao Haiqing smiled. You may believe me, but others might not. All right, you don't have to worry about me. No matter what they say, I won't let myself suffer. Jing Yunjiao didn't want to talk to her anymore. After thinking about it, Jing Yunjiao found Li Xiaoyun. On the phone, Jing Yunjiao's emotions fluctuated. He pursed his lips and said, Li Xiaoyun, do you know any hackers? Yes. Li Xiaoyun's voice was steady. Jing Yunjiao opened his mouth and said, Does he accept any business? I don't care how much it costs. I hope he can help. Li Xiaoyun was silent for a moment. Go on. Hack number 1 middle school's forum. Delete all the negative comments about Xiao Haiqing. Can you do it? Jing Yunjiao asked again. Jing Yunjiao's heart was beating fast. Yes. Li Xiaoyun said concisely. Jing Yunjiao heaved a sigh of relief. Talk to him about the price. I'll pay. Thank you. There's no need for money. We'll talk about it after the matter is settled. Li Xiaoyun was tactful. Jing Yunjiao was at his peak right now. He didn't want to be suspected of taking advantage of him. Jing Yunjiao smiled bitterly. Do as you wish. I'll accept any request. After that, Jing Yunjiao was speechless and hung up the phone. She was not very willing to let Li Xiaoyun help, but Li Xiaoyun made her feel more at ease. If she let Pak Yuan find a hacker with good skills, it would be fine, but she always felt that if Li Xiaoyun found someone, it would be more foolproof. Li Xiaoyun was a person who had high requirements for people and things. He was never willing to compromise, so his vision was also extremely high. Yunjiao, why bother? Indeed, it can be completely deleted, but many people have already seen it. Other people's memories can't be deleted, Xiao Haiqing said. Jing Yunzhao glared at her angrily and painfully. You can't keep this thing for even a second longer. I've seen stupid people, but I've never seen someone as stupid as you. Did the form teacher call you just now? The director will definitely call you when you go to school tomorrow morning. I'll go with you then, Jing Yunzhao said. Why? Are you going to break the director's desk with a kick and threaten him? Xiao Haiqing was still in the mood to joke around. That's right. I'm threatening him, Jing Yunzhao admitted directly. When he nodded, Su Chu and Xiao Haiqing's eyes widened. Seeing her exploding with anger, the two of them were terrified. Xiao Haiqing laughed dryly, but when she laughed, she was glared at by Jing Yunzhao. She immediately pouted and didn't say anything. Zhua Haiyang and James were in a terrible fix, and Jing Yunzhao was in a similar mood. The next morning, Jing Yunzhao waited for Xiao Haiqing to go to school together. When he stepped through the school gates, he saw the surrounding boys and girls subconsciously moving to the side and pointing at him. Sure enough, as soon as he reached class, the class monitor, Qi Deong, came to pass a message saying that the director was looking for him. Chapter 659. Xiao Haiqing looked helpless. She didn't seem to care about anything. She was the focus of everyone's gossip, but she acted as if she didn't know anything. She was so calm that people couldn't accept it. However, outsiders didn't know how long Xiao Haiqing had been mentally preparing herself for this. Jing Yunzhao accompanied Xiao Haiqing with a serious face. Yunzhao, am I your little chick? You really look like a fighting cock. Xiao Haiqing laughed in Jing Yunzhao's ear. How can you still laugh? Jing Yunzhao looked at her and was speechless. In fact, she would rather Xiao Haiqing vent her anger on the people around her, but her temperament had completely changed. She was no longer like before, where she would say whatever she wanted to say, or get physical with someone at the slightest disagreement. She was straightforward and straightforward. Now, she was just like Jiang Rong. No matter when, she would smile gently and beautifully. She would hide her thorns and hurt herself before hurting others. I just don't want you to be so hostile. I know it's my fault for not telling you in advance. You're angry with me, but I don't want you to worry. However, I promise that it won't be like this in the future. Xiao Haiqing had a fawning look on her face. Little chick, let's deal with the eagle inside first. Jing Yunzhao sighed. She looked at the dean's office and said that. Then, she knocked on the door and entered. The dean looked at Jing Yunzhao and was stunned. I only asked Xiao Haiqing to come. Why are you here too? Xiao Haiqing looked at Jing Yunzhao suspiciously. She was afraid that she would really smash the dean's desk. Dean, I have a good relationship with Haiqing. I don't want you to deal with her without knowing anything, so I came to take a look. Jing Yunzhao's attitude at this moment was still considered friendly. The dean cherished Jing Yunzhao a little more. After all, she represented a lot of number 1 middle school's reputation. Then you can sit by the side. He adjusted his glasses and looked at Xiao Haiqing. You know about the post on the forum, right? Xiao Haiqing nodded, but then said, but I heard that the forum is now paralyzed, so I don't know the current situation. The corner of the dean's mouth twitched. Someone hacked the school forum. Did you find someone to do this? Before Xiao Haiqing could answer, Jing Yunzhao said, you don't have to ask. I did it. The director's hand that was holding the pin paused. Why? I just don't want anyone to continue tarnishing the reputation of Haiqing and the school. Director, you should have seen the forum, so you should know how vicious those people are. I can't stop them one by one, so I can only ask for help. Jing Yunzhao didn't hide anything. Now that the forum was hacked at this critical moment, most people would suspect Xiao Haiqing, so there was nothing to hide. I'll talk to you about the forum in private later. The corner of the dean's mouth twitched. The corner of the director's mouth twitched. He said, Xiao Haiqing, many people saw the post you posted yesterday. What's going on? You're still young, and your grades aren't bad. You have a bright future ahead of you. How could you? Director, I was sent to that house by my father. I was a little drunk at the time, so I fell into their trap. And the truth is that I didn't do anything to violate my innocence. I just made them unhappy, so they uploaded the post. Whether you believe it or not, it's true. Xiao Haiqing's attitude became more serious. She didn't want to explain, but seeing how hardworking Jing Yunzhao was, she couldn't force herself to be brave. Chapter 660. When Xiao Haiqing said this, the director's brows immediately furrowed. So you were forced to do it? The director asked again. Xiao Haiqing nodded. A trace of hesitation appeared on the director's face, but he still said, but that photo looks. Xiao Haiqing, you should know that even an upright official can't resolve a family dispute. When your father forced you, you should have taken some measures to resist. Now that things have become like this, our school has to give the other parents an explanation. Although Xiao Haiqing's matter had nothing to do with others, some people were not the kind of people who would settle things peacefully. They would think that Xiao Haiqing would lead the students astray and have a bad influence. If they didn't deal with it, those parents would not let it go. If Xiao Haiqing's appearance in the photo was not obedience but resistance, then they could still put Xiao Haiqing in the perspective of a victim. If her father was willing to come forward and negotiate, the school could find a suitable excuse to keep her. But the current situation was that they couldn't contact her parents. Because the school had been contacting Xiao Haiqing's stepmother, the teachers also said that the stepmother was not a person who could solve problems, so they called the Xiao family's landline. Mr. Xiao did answer the phone, but after listening to the teachers, he said that this was a child's private matter and that the school didn't need to intervene. They talked until their mouths were dry, but the other party only said that the photo was a misunderstanding. As for the rest, he didn't explain at all. He even said that if the school couldn't keep her, it didn't matter if she was expelled. He would transfer her to another school. Such a parent was very rare, and it was an eye-opener for them. Xiao Haiqing was silent, only to hear the director say, Xiao Haiqing, I think you should drop out of school. Xiao Haiqing's beautiful eyes didn't show any disappointment. She had already expected this. Director, if Xiao Haiqing drops out of school, I will transfer to another school, Jing Yunjiao said. The director's eyelids twitched. Jing Yunjiao, this is not the time for jokes. I'm not joking. Haiqing was harmed because of me. Since there's nothing we can do now, we can only work together. If she drops out of school, I'll follow her, Jing Yunjiao said directly. Jing Yunjiao had a tough personality. It wasn't the first time the director knew about it. Therefore, when he heard her say that, he felt a headache coming on. Based on Jing Yunjiao's grades, it was almost certain that she would be admitted to a key university in the future. She might even be able to fight for the title of the top scholar. In a few months, it would be the college entrance examination. He was worried that she would be distracted, but she actually said that she wanted to transfer schools. Although the school was an educational base, the most important thing was the enrollment rate and reputation. If they sent Jing Yunjiao, a good student, to another school, they would really vomit to death. Jing Yunjiao, Dean, actually, you can reconsider. Even though the photos at the time were clear, but with how advanced digital technology is now, it's easy to fake a photo. Haiqing did enter that room at the time, but in the end, he didn't do anything. The angles of these photos were carefully chosen. They were obviously done to make her unable to raise her head. If you really let her drop out of school, then it's the same as admitting to it, Jing Yunjiao said. I know that this matter has indeed damaged the school's reputation, but if you deny it, it would be better for the school and Haiqing. I don't think you want to ruin Haiqing's reputation because of a photo that doesn't have much credibility, right? Chapter 661. Jing Yunjiao clenched his fists and stared at the director in front of him. Jing Yunjiao, you want the school to lie? The director was a little surprised. In his eyes, Jing Yunjiao was an extremely stubborn and righteous person. His attitude of denying the photos was very different from his usual self. If a lie can save a person's future, then it should exist. Jing Yunjiao didn't hesitate and said, if you can't accept it, there's another option. Let Haiqing study at home for the time being. She's still a student of this school, but she has to make it clear to the public. It's just to make the parents feel at ease. That's why we let her rest until the truth is out. As long as I can find evidence to prove that Xiao Haiqing wasn't a willing victim, she can come back at any time, Jing Yunjiao said after thinking for a while. However, when he said this, the two of them were a little stunned. Even Xiao Haiqing was confused. Suitable evidence? This matter was already set in stone. How could Jing Yunjiao not know? Moreover, The photos were taken by the other party. The complete video couldn't have been left behind. How could he prove that she wasn't a willing victim? Xiao Haiqing was completely confused. The director was also a little confused, but after thinking for a while, he said, "You want time? Okay, 2 weeks. If this matter can't be explained clearly, I'll suggest to the school leaders to let her study at home before the exams. But then, we can't say that she's innocent. She'll have to come out and reflect." Jing Yunjiao nodded. No problem. The two of them left the office. Jing Yunjiao's tense nerves relaxed a little. "Yunjiao, I actually have a copy of those photos, but all of them are unfavorable to me. The ones that are unfavorable to James have already been deleted." Xiao Haiqing was extremely confused. Jing Yunjiao sighed. "It can be faked, can it?" "Haiqing, if I were you, when I found out that the other party had evidence against me, I wouldn't want to die together with them." Jing Yunjiao looked at her with a cold gaze. "I would just let them die. So, don't do such a stupid thing next time. You still haven't told me. Don't tell me it's a reshoot?" Xiao Haiqing suddenly had an idea. "What's wrong with that? Didn't they censor James' face in the photo? If they can fight, so can we. Zhuo Haiyang is now responsible for the alcohol poisoning. We can go to the Zhuo residence and do whatever we want. It's the same scene and the same people. What's so hard about making a few pictures? As for the date on the paper, it's not a problem. Just find an expert retoucher to do it," Jing Yunjiao said. Xiao Haiqing swallowed her saliva. She felt that Jing Yunjiao's little universe seemed to have exploded at this moment. His body seemed to be surrounded by a black aura, and when he spoke, it made people feel a chill run down their backs. "After the photos are out, we need to let the school leaders have a look. They aren't experts who can distinguish between real and fake photos. It's enough that they know you're innocent. Then, we'll find 2 photos that aren't too obvious and show them to the public. Even if someone finds out that they're fake, it'll be useless because most people only believe what they see with their own eyes." Jing Yunjiao's eyes flashed with a hint of murderous intent. The two of them walked back to the classroom side by side. After listening to Jing Yunjiao's words, Xiao Haiqing felt that she was too involved to see the situation clearly. She felt that she had almost been humiliated, so all she could think about was revenge. Speaking of black-bellied, she was much worse than Jing Yunjiao. Chapter 662. As soon as Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing left the office, the dean felt as if he had forgotten something. He thought about it carefully and scratched his head. His heart felt stifled. He had said that he wanted to talk to Jing Yunjiao about hacking the school's forum, but in the end, he had forgotten. When he opened the forum, the director was speechless again. He saw that the overall style of the webpage had changed. When he opened all the subpages, there were only a few pictures of skeletons shaking their heads and carrying backpacks. Other than that, there was nothing else. But these pictures were quite creative. He didn't expect Jing Yunjiao to know such a talent. At this moment, Li Xiaoyun was leaning on a rocking chair with Du Lin beside him. Du Lin was staring at his computer with a look of admiration. "Li Xiao, I didn't expect you to know this. But, speaking of which, other than this small forum, what else can you hack?" Du Lin's eyes lit up. Li Xiaoyun looked bored. He shoved the computer into Du Lin's hands and closed his eyes to rest. He said lazily, "It's nothing. I stopped playing with this thing 10 years ago." Du Lin's mouth twitched. Wasn't the difference between people a little too big? If Yunjiao knew that you were the hacker, she would be shocked to death. "Do you want me to tell her and give her a surprise?" Du Lin's eyes lit up. However, Li Xiaoyun was now a teacher in No. 1 middle school. Although he was only there to make up the numbers, if the school knew that he was the culprit, all the leaders would probably want to die. "At this time, you can try. But don't blame me for not reminding you. Zhao's temper isn't very good recently," Li Xiaoyun said slowly. It wasn't that Jing Yunjiao didn't feel grateful, but at this moment, Jing Yunjiao had an aura that kept people away. "No wonder you were so direct when you called her last time." Du Lin chuckled. He finally understood why Li Xiaoyun's attitude was so cold. Those who didn't know would think that he didn't care about Jing Yunjiao at all. In the rocking chair, Li Xiaoyun fell asleep in a short while. Du Lin hugged the computer and looked at the skull on the screen, laughing for a while. He really couldn't imagine that this was Li Xiaoyun's taste. Time was limited, so Jing Yunjiao simply asked for leave and accompanied Xiao Haiqing to Zhua Haiyang's villa in Ning City. The frequency of Jing Yunjiao applying for leave was extremely high. However, because it never affected his studies, Teacher Qi had already turned a blind eye to it. Moreover, Li Xiaoyun was his guardian, so there was no surprise. After spending 3 days, Jing Yunjiao found a body double that looked exactly like James. Because James was a foreigner and had an extremely fair complexion, Jing Yunjiao required perfection, so it took a longer time. Other than that, all the furnishings in the house had to be exactly the same as before. Fortunately, everything in the Zhua family was of high quality and would not be thrown away carelessly, so it was easy to replenish. As for Zhua Haiyang, she was still in the police station. When everything was ready, Jing Yunjiao used the same method to install cameras all over the room. Even the brand and model of the cameras were the same as the Zhua families. Now that everyone was ready, all that was left was to put on a show. This matter couldn't be blown out of proportion and couldn't involve other people. Otherwise, if the police came forward, they would definitely verify the authenticity of the photos. Therefore, Jing Yunjiao was extremely careful when he took the photos. In the last photo, Xiao Haiqing's struggling appearance could be seen, as well as the scene of her successfully escaping from the villa. The most important thing was the photo that looked different from different angles. Jing Yunjiao tried several times. After confirming that there were no problems, he breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 663. Jing Yunjiao sent the photos to Li Xiaoyun and asked him to edit all the details in the photos. Only a few days had passed since the series of things were done, and there were still a few days before the 2-week deadline given by the dean. However, the rumors in the school were getting more and more intense. Even though the school said that Xiao Haiqing was temporarily studying at home, in the eyes of others, they still thought that she had been expelled. Even the word investigation was completely ignored. After all, those people saw the photos and naturally felt that it was an irrefutable fact. On this day, Jing Yunjiao placed a stack of photos on the teaching director's desk. The teaching director's face was filled with astonishment. It was obvious that he never thought that Jing Yunjiao would really take out the so-called evidence. But when he opened the photos to take a look, his facial features were about to crumple together. This, Xiao Haiqing, you should know who the person in the photos is, right? That's attempted rape. The dean couldn't accept it. After all, she was a student of the school. Encountering such a thing, he was more or less furious. Dean, this matter is related to my father, so I don't want to call the police, Xiao Haiqing said. As for the real reason, it was naturally not for Xiao Daoan. These photos were all fake. The teachers couldn't tell, but if they were sent to the police, after a series of comparisons and analysis, the possibility of being exposed was high. She wouldn't do such a thankless thing. Even if the truth was the same as the photos she faked, there was no other way now. Since Xiao Haiqing had said so, the dean could only show a trace of regret on his face. I'll talk to the other leaders later. After these photos have been circulated, I'll return them to you. But, as the dean spoke, he took off his glasses, wiped them, and put them back on. He said, Jing Yunjiao, this school forum, it was still dark. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. I'm sorry, Dean. I've been busy these few days, so I forgot. Don't worry, I'll get someone to restore the forum to its original state. Of course, all the unfavorable comments about Xiao Haiqing would be deleted one by one. Not a single bit would be left. The corner of the director's mouth twitched. All right, you guys can go out first. All right, the college entrance examination will be in a few months. You two must put in more effort. Needless to say, Jing Yunjiao was the top student in the whole school. Xiao Haiqing was not bad either. She was also in the top 20 in the whole school. However, this girl's exam was completely dependent on her mood. When she was in a good mood, she could pass the top 3. When she was in a bad mood, she could fall back to the top 50. However, she knew in her heart that if she exceeded the top 50, she would have to leave class 1. Therefore, she had a bottom line. The two nodded. After the matter was told to the director, a few leaders held a meeting on the same day. After the things were passed around, the group of people had nothing to say. Although Xiao Haiqing's clothes were disheveled at that time, she didn't do it on her own accord. Moreover, from the moment she entered the villa to the moment she left, they had filmed everything, so they wouldn't think too much about it. However, even though Xiao Haiqing had already resisted, the negative impact of this matter still existed. After some consideration, the leaders finally decided to give her a verbal demerit. After all, in the photo, Xiao Haiqing was drunk. Otherwise, such an accident and misunderstanding wouldn't have happened. Therefore, Xiao Haiqing was convinced. However, when the punishment was announced, there was an uproar. Since it was only a demerit, the school naturally explained the reason. As for Jing Yunzhao, after Li Xiaoyun restored the forum, she rearranged the cause and effect of the incident, as well as the photo that could easily cause misunderstandings, and reposted it. Only after a series of explanations did the storm calm down a little. Chapter 664. Xiao Haiqing knew in her heart that even if everyone knew the truth, her reputation would not be restored. After all, the person in the photo was her, and she was only a high school student. Even if she did not do it willingly, even if there was no excessive physical contact in the photo, some people could not help but think too much. However, the current situation was already very good. Compared to the previous situation, she was extremely satisfied. Dear Yin Zhao, tell me, how do you want me to repay your kindness? Xiao Haiqing winked at Jing Yunzhao and leaned her head forward. Seeing her head deliberately leaning forward, Jing Yunzhao raised his hand and pushed her face away. I am not interested in girls. How about I go to country T, then go to country H for plastic surgery? I guarantee that when I come back, I will become a super handsome guy. As the saying goes, do not let your own fertile water flow into other people's fields. When I think of you marrying someone else in the future, my heart goes cold, Xiao Haiqing said and laughed. Jing Yunzhao rolled his eyes and focused on his homework. After so many days without class, there was a pile of exam papers. He quickly filled in the blanks and his phone vibrated a few times. He opened it and saw that it was a message from Pak Yuan. Interesting. Now all the goods from the ocean company are going to be taken off the shelves and destroyed. Jing Yunzhao's mouth curved into a smile. This meant that the government admitted that there was a problem with the ocean company's products. One must know that the government's words were more useful than anything else. I saw that someone on the internet said that even Yuling Wines is being investigated. Is there a problem? Xiao Haiqing stopped smiling and asked seriously. Jing Yunzhao pursed his lips. Don't worry. There was absolutely no problem with Yuling Wine's wine recipes. She could not ask for more people to be willing to advertise for her. When Jing Yunzhao received the news, Ning City and the internet were already in an uproar. When the news was announced, it completely corrected Yuling Wine's reputation. The customers that were originally taken away by the ocean company naturally came back. Originally, the employees of Yuling Wines did not understand why their boss did not reduce production, but now they completely understood. After the trough, there was a huge explosion. Pak Yuan didn't spend a single cent, but he took all the publicity for the ocean company. Zhua Haiyang and James spent hundreds of millions, but they suffered a double loss. Now, Yuling Wines had a beautiful turnaround. In the next few months, the company's sales would increase several times. Not only did the sales increase, but the brand effect was also increasing. After all, it was a company with a conscience that even the government recognized. Compared to the Jade Spirit Wine Company, the Ocean Company was in a miserable state. Zhua Haiyang was the person in charge of the company. If there was a problem with the product, he would definitely be punished. Fortunately, no one died from drinking the wine. Otherwise, Zhua Haiyang's reputation would be even worse. After Zhua Haiyang accepted the official fine, he also compensated the victim. But that was just the beginning. For the next few months, Zhua Haiyang's company had been facing all kinds of investigations. After the wine was cleared and destroyed, there were people who complained that there were problems with the snacks produced by the Ocean Company. Generally, these companies would use false advertising, and the Ocean Company was no exception. It was quickly found that although the food did not endanger the consumer's health, some of the ingredients on the packaging did not match the actual content. They were fined again, but this time the fine was not heavy. It was only a few tens of thousands. but their reputation was completely ruined. Those supermarkets, shopping malls, and all the other businesses did not dare to cooperate with Zhuo Haiyang. Chapter 665. Over the past few months, Zhuo Haiyang had been slapped in the face by reality again and again. James and Zhuo Haiyang were already in the same boat. Zhuo Haiyang was now in debt, and many of his equipment had been confiscated. The company had no future prospects, so naturally, James would not be able to get a single cent. Hundreds of millions of funds had been completely wasted. Although Zhuo Haiyang was considered a debtor, he could not afford to pay it back in his current situation. James sat in his wheelchair and looked at Zhuo Haiyang's miserable face as he handed him a stack of documents. He was so angry that he threw everything away. Trash. You're a useless piece of shit. James pointed at Zhuo Haiyang's nose and continued to scold him. I gave you so much money, and this is how you repay me? You're far worse than Pak Yuan. Pak Yuan was definitely the biggest beneficiary. Any place that sold Yuling wine was selling like hotcakes. Many people on the internet were calling Zhuo Haiyang and the investors of Zhuo Haiyang's company stupid pigs for spending money to advertise for their competitors. Zhuo Haiyang was extremely embarrassed. Over the past few months, he had become more and more haggard. His face was unshaven, his eyes were dull, and his hair was longer than before. It was as messy as a chicken's nest. He had not taken off his suit for a long time, and it was emitting a sour smell. He had begged a lot of people, but it was all useless. Most of the company's employees had left, and the rest were waiting for him to pay them. No one had purposely suppressed him. If Pak Yuan had purposely done something to suppress him, he might have felt better. At least it would prove that his failure was not due to his incompetence. But now, Pak Yuan acted as if he did not know him. When people mentioned Zhuo Haiyang in public, Pak Yuan only looked at him with disdain. It was as if he had spent so much effort, but he was just a clown imitating Yuling wine. He knew that Pak Yuan did it on purpose. Instead of suppressing him, he provoked him to the greatest extent. There were even so many people outside praising Pak Yuan for his generosity. Zhuo Haiyang stood in front of James, his heart filled with despair. He could not figure out how he had lost. Was it a problem with the recipe? But even though the taste was exactly the same, he still couldn't believe that the contents of the wine recipe were different. James was still cursing beside his ear, but Zhuo Haiyang didn't seem to hear him. He kept scratching his head and muttering, "The wine recipe is the same. Someone framed me. The victims are all fake," Zhuo Haiyang said as he left the building in a daze. As soon as he arrived downstairs, he saw many debt collectors lying on the ground with bruises all over their faces. Jing Yunjiao looked at them from afar and called the nearby mental hospital. After suffering such a huge blow, even if he did not become mentally ill, she would let him live in this world in another way. However, she could also use the silver needles to do something. It was just that she did not wish to use her medical skills to harm people unless it was absolutely necessary. Otherwise, she would feel somewhat uncomfortable in her heart. Zhuo Haiyang's parents were both abroad. They only came back after the company's accident, but it was already too late. Therefore, it was of no help to Zhuo Haiyang at all. As soon as Zhuo Haiyang arrived at the mental hospital, he kept resisting. No matter how much he tried to explain, no one paid any attention to him. He only calmed down after he was given an injection. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.